So after that exceptionally long preamble, I think we're ready to talk about this week's Coronation Street Talk section. Welcome everybody to our extra long, hopefully, well, it's extra long I don't know whether we're going to make it extra long here today, Gemma. We ain't got time. No waffling today because we've got lots to do and 8 episodes to chat about, and also 8 storylines we had this week. Number 1, Alina pops off. obvious one. So I didn't know that she was going this week.
I didn't either. I was really shocked and actually a bit sad.
Yeah.
We had very differing opinions about
this. We did. We'll get to that in a minute. Next one, we've got Norris's death, and we don't know how things are going to go next week. We don't know whether he's going to get buried or cremated. So I've got 2 storyline titles just to cover all bases here. We've got Coal in a Hole or Coal Burner, depending on. It could be that they just, throw him off the cliff into the sea or whatever, and then we can call it Chuck Norris. But probably unlikely that one. But up next, we have got the return of Kelly and Jelly.
Kelly and
Jelly, which was a massive cliffhanger at the end of last week. What's Imran done? And this week we're like, don't really know. Then we've got the Speed Daal. I'm a rubbish storyline. I've got at the moment for the Speed Daal storyline, I've got scam or scheme because she's been scammed, or has she not been? I don't know. But Zeedan's back.
What do you mean scheme? What scheme?
Somebody's scheming. No, I really don't know where that's even come from. Max Payne is my next one because Max Payne, because he's been a bit of a pain this week, hasn't he, Max? New Max, everybody. What do we think? Oh, we'll find out in a minute. Then we have a return. We got some really mini returns for the characters profiled story with the Baileys. We had a bit more of the eye opener story, which is the Eileen opening herself up to George.
Physically and emotionally.
Figuratively and physically. And then a little bit of the summer loving, which I've left till last because that was the most hilarious thing we've seen on Going for a long time. I know some people hated it, but if you know us, you know we would have absolutely loved that scene.
I could not believe what I was seeing. I was loving every minute.
Absolutely brilliant. But we have got 7 more stories to get to before we do that. And I think, Gemma, as this is going to be your last chance before you retire your Alina voice, you can do Alina Pops Off. What's gone on with them this week?
I'm never going to retire Alina.
Good.
You need to make it smaller so I can the window smaller. And you need to move over here. I'm sitting on the opposite side.
Yeah, usually I'm on the left and Gemma's on the right, but we've had to swap over because like I said, we're in bed today and I have to sleep next to the door just in case there's a crazy axe murderer that comes in through the night and then he attacks me first and Gemma can use me as a human shield.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to this setup. And I
can escape out of the window.
This is like if Ant and Dec swap positions, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
don't get Gemma started on that, everybody. Sorry.
Because everybody calls them the wrong thing.
No, you just do.
Dec is clearly...
here we go.
The one with the big forehead, because his forehead's like a deck. And Ant is the small one, because he's like an ant.
No, that's not how it works.
And I will never listen to anybody who tells me that the little one's Dec.
We talked about Ant and Dec on the podcast last week. They are new.
I'm sorry. I don't know why people can't get this right.
Right. Gemma, Alina's popping off this week.
Monday, she's going on about this holiday where she wants them to go, and she's starting to talk about churches in Romania to visit her family. She's kind of like trying to angle to get married there, it seems like. Tyrone goes over to number 9, and Fizz is annoyed. This was awful, and I've heard stories about this happening, and this just chills my blood. The parents ganging up together on WhatsApp to get Hope excluded from the school because she's an arsonist. Now, obviously, if my child was going to school with an arsonist, I might start a WhatsApp group. But it's not very nice, is it, to have people talking about you?
No.
And these little cliques of parents.
I'm not going to say anything as a teacher, but WhatsApp groups are a thing.
Yeah,
maybe things were better before WhatsApp groups for parents, and maybe things have been improved by it.
Maybe.
I have my own opinions, but I won't share them today.
Tyrone wants to help and talk about it, but she won't let him in, or he won't let her in. You've confused it.
Sorry.
Fizz tells you've been very stressed this week, don't worry.
Any mistakes? And by the time we get to Friday note, it's probably going to be completely nonsensical, because we had our friends around last night to show them the new house, like we said, and we ended up watching it at 12:15. We started watching it, didn't get to bed until about 1:30, and I fell asleep.
My friend...
Don't know what that says about the quality of last night's episodes, but we had been told before they broadcast that they're not the best episodes.
Before we watched them.
Oh, so yeah, before we watched them, not before they were broadcast. How would people know? But yeah, well, when they were on, we saw some people online saying that Friday's episodes were a bit naff. And I fell asleep during them.
Yes, you did. So, Fizz tells Chesney about this group and he hasn't heard about it. Then David's walking along and she asks him if he has joined, and he starts saying, "Oh, I didn't look at it. I just automatically joined the Remove Hope State
That
group."
was weird.
Like,
I didn't really get David's inclusion in this part of the story.
Well, it was just sort of like...
Is it setting something up? Or?
No, I just think it was just him, how people get sucked into these things, like, casually, without really thinking about the implications of what's going on.
Apart from Chesney, because nobody wants to invite Chesney to be in their WhatsApp group, clearly.
I wouldn't.
Nothing to do with the fact that he's related to the people they're trying to get out. He's just Chesney.
So he's trying to make excuses because he's embarrassed that he's joined this group. Then she has a go at Maria for not telling her about the group earlier, and then Captain Gingerbeard, who is called... Phill.
I wrote here, Captain Gingerbeard sails into port because I couldn't remember his name, but it is Phill with 2 L's. Welcome back, Phill.
And he's heard about the group because his niece goes to Bessie Street, and Fizz just starts crying in front of him because she's kind of emotionally wrought out, but also she's grateful because he's actually listening to her. Nobody else has listened to her or tried to help her apart from Tyrone, and he's just trying to get in her pants. So, well, so's Phill. Anyway, Evelyn comes...
Phill is a gentleman, Gemma.
Evelyn comes in and they get introduced, and Phill invites Fizz out for dinner, and I think by the end of the week they should have a free meal on the bistro. I think they're trying to fill in one of those loyalty cards. You get a stamp every time, and then at the end you get a free starter or something.
Everybody on the street has got a loyalty card for both the Bistro and Speed Daal and Chariot Square Hotel. The only places to go, literally.
Right, so
you see, if you go to Google and type restaurants near me, 3 hits.
It's only 3, and that's
one
it.
One of them's a hotel.
In what is it? M10 5DP.
What, did you remember that?
I think that's that is the postcode for Speed Daal.
I think that's a little bit of a rude postcode.
I know, that's why I remembered it. So Evelyn's going, yes, go for a meal together. David then sees Tyrone and tries to apologise, but he's fuming, and David sidles away. I think Mondays, David was just to remind us that David has children.
Yeah.
Because
just to warm us up for Max.
We literally never see Dad David, do we?
No, I don't like David being a dad.
No, me either. He doesn't seem like he has kids to me.
I whenever I'm reminded that there's he's got Lily and Max, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really dull facet to his personality.
And also, it is kind of funny that Max looks like he could eat David alive. The size of him.
Max. Are you talking?
New Max. I've lost where I am again. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is when
Tyrone sees Phill outside number 9. So he asks Evelyn what's going on with Phill and Fizz, and she says, do not even think about sabotaging this relationship. You've left her, it's her time to do what she wants. So he goes into the bistro, Tyrone, and finds them in there and feels like, oh, well, I think I'll go to the loo and leave you two to chat. And Fizz is like, I'm fed up with you. I'm sick of this. I'm thinking of moving away from here to get away from you and everybody else because she's feeling very isolated now. And he says, no, I miss you. I can't stop thinking about you. Trying to come on to her.
He's
out
just
of
like,
nowhere.
at the end of last week, he was saying, I think I like Fizz. And now he's just like, he's totally given up on Alina, hasn't he? Yes. Anybody could have been listening by this point.
He's begging. He's got no dignity left. He's begging for her to take him back. She's not. She does. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. What about Alina? I'm not pining for you anymore. You can staff off, basically. Thought that was fantastic.
That was a surprise. Everywhere where this is going this week, I think. No way.
I'm sorry.
Well, not. If I was in Fizz's position, maybe I would be telling Titus stuff off. But
I'm sorry,
the way that I thought the storyline was going, it was just going to be a nice little reunion for Fizz and Tyrone. We'd be very happy about it. But now we've got Phill back in. I still think they're probably going to end up together. But to be honest, I really like Phill, and I wouldn't say no to Phill staying with Fizz for a little bit.
I can't believe Tyrone, the gall of this man. Who does he think he is? He's not a catch.
He's like, I've had my bit on the side now. I've had my younger model. Can I go back? Oh, there's a delivery man outside the window. Okay, we're back
from the delivery.
We're back. This is good because we were sitting nicely. We're sitting in the bedroom and we got a nice view of anyone who comes to the door, and they're sitting. And they're probably thinking, why are they sitting there in bed together talking to a computer screen? But never mind.
No, they're like, must be a podcast.
Must be. That looks like a podcasting studio, a mirrored podcasting studio.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we've got some chairs delivered for our new decking outside. Very fancy. Anyway, where were we?
Tyrone goes to find Alina in the Rovers.
Oh, yeah.
And he tells her about Fizz wanting to leave. And he says that he doesn't want her to. And he needs to stay here. And he's moaning at her about the fact that she's organised this holiday without even asking him. He was fine with it like 5 minutes ago, and now...
He was never really that fine with it. He was pretending to be fine. I mean, when she was talking about it earlier, he was tapping away on his phone to Fizz. He's just like having to go along with it.
Cry. I've got no sympathy for this man.
I do.
Yes.
I don't like Tyrone.
Hope and Ruby need him there, he says, because he's been such a great and engaged father up to this point. He hovers around the door of the bistro, waiting for Phill and Fizz to come out. And Kirk's just whittering away. I can't remember what he was talking about. He's still loitering there as Phill and Fizz walk down the street. And Phill invites her out again tomorrow. So he's just like fuming and jealous. He goes back home. Alina's there. I've cancelled the holiday. I just don't want you to be so sad. I am frightened that you are getting closer to Fizz again. Never mind. I love you. And Tyrone's like, oh, crap. She's so nice. She's so sweet. She's done nothing wrong. I don't know how you can be so horrible to this poor girl. She's got nobody else. Think about this. She's a trafficking victim.
That makes me feel bad.
You're a bad person, Michael.
She's a trafficking victim alone in a foreign country.
Yeah, and she's trying to start her
family.
own... She literally asked this man for help, right, to start her own business so she can be independent. And then he, like, seduces her.
No, she seduced him.
And then leaves his family... to promising her, the world, and then 5 minutes later he's like, I'm not going to Romania to see your family.
I know, I really, really should feel sorry for her. I just can't.
Tyrone feels so bad for himself. Michael, you don't need to join in. He's got enough pity for the entire nation for himself. He goes in to see Evelyn at the shop and starts crying. Oh, the holiday. Oh, Alina's so nice, but I love Fizz now. Did never appreciated her at the time. Oh, you stupid spanner. I told you this at the time. You didn't listen to me, Tyrone, and I was shouting quite loudly at the television. He says he thinks he might have made a massive mistake. Everyone around the country is going, yes. She says to him, you can't just go breaking Alina's heart and spoiling things for Fizz when she's just starting to get together with Phill. You need a good night's sleep. And he goes home and cries.
This is at the end of this episode. I was like, oh, poor Tyrone. Oh, he's got himself into such a situation. And what a pickle. And you're like going, just the Tyrone, string him up.
Yeah.
Serves him right.
I was going to say also, let's normalise men being able to cry when they're sad.
Okay.
I don't have anything against... I don't want anyone to get the impression that I'm making fun of him for crying, because I think more men represented on television allowing their emotions to come out when they feel like they need a bit of a cry. Good, healthy.
Are we allowed to call him Cryrone now? Or is that making fun of it again?
We called Rana Weatherfield Waterworks.
Yeah.
So I think it's equal opportunities mocking, isn't it? Let's normalise men being able to cry so we can make fun of them without being sexist. That's what I want out of this world. On Wednesday, Hope doesn't want to go to school because everyone's being mean to her. Well, I hope nobody's being mean to you because I'll kick their butts.
I hope there's not a WhatsApp group saying let's get rid of Mr. Dodson, but
I think there might be.
That would be surprised sometimes.
I wouldn't be surprised. They're horrible to you.
Are you in it, Gemma?
Well, I started it, but I don't really participate.
That's because you want me to hang around and help tidy up and unpack the boxes at home.
If you don't have a job anymore, this house, the mortgage on it...
I know.
Somebody's got to pay it, and it's not me. I'm buying chairs. Anyway, I was saying, Tyrone and Alina both arrive to try to take Hope to school and persuade her that school is the place to be. And anybody who can persuade a child to go to school when they don't want to needs to be on the sales team.
This is when Alina starts offering these parenting tips up to Fizz. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about, madam. Fizz is their mum, and you're telling her what she needs to do. What would she say? Like, you just need to be firm with them. It's like, it's not off, Alina. It's not your place to tell Fizz how to look after her girls.
This was to demonstrate how naive and out of her depth Alina is. I think that many parents will have had somebody who doesn't have children telling them the best way and we've probably done this on the podcast before, how to parent your own children by someone who doesn't have kids.
If Alina was making her own podcast where she just dished out advice to all and sundry, fine.
Well, this is Alina trying to sort of also assert her position in the family as the stepmother, and saying she's like, when we're married, I'm going to do this and that with Hope, and Hope's not having it, not going. So Tyrone and Alina have to stay home from work to look after her. Alina invites Hope. She's, "Oh, Hope, I've got a surprise for you. Would you like to be the flower girl at the wedding?"
No, she does not.
I don't.
She says, "I hate you. You stole me dad and now he doesn't love me anymore."
Oops. Tyrone gets really furious. I've never seen him so cross with his kids before. He tells Hope she's gone too far this time. Actually, he's probably got mad when she set fire to things.
Yeah, I think didn't he smash her iPad, or was that Fizz? I can't remember. One of them did.
I'm trying to imagine smashing the iPad, and instead I've got the vision of Fizz with the chopping board bashing what's her face to death. Yeah,
he's proper mad.
He's proper mad.
They go back to the flat where she
Hope's calmed down.
Yeah, Alina kind of shows that she's not actually too bad a parent. I thought this was a bit weird because Alina is able to tame this lioness, isn't she? And
well, she admits she stole the teddy and apologises. And Tyrone tells Alina that she's handling this better than he could have done. So Alina takes Hope back to see Fizz, and all seems to have gone well. Hope's sorry. She didn't mean to hurt anybody. And then she drops the bombshell, and this is kind of the catalyst for the breakup of Alina and Tyrone, even though Tyrone's been trying to... This is the thing, Tyrone's been trying so hard to get out of this relationship with Alina by doing nothing, by trying to get Fizz back first so that he'll have somewhere to live.
Yeah,
literally,
a bit of a buffer.
He really, if he was serious about not wanting to be with Alina anymore, he would have broken up with her before he started going out trying to get Fizz back. He's just a dog. I'm sorry, don't like him at all. But I love to not like him, so that's fine. Anyway, the bombshell that Hope drops is that she's sorry that she hurt the fire, and she didn't mean to hurt anybody.
Start the fire.
What did I say?
You said she's sorry that she hurt the fire.
She should be mad that other people.
Fire.
Other people hurt the fire by putting it out.
Yeah.
These are Hope's children. I'm sorry I started the fire. I didn't mean to hurt anybody, or with the other fires either. And Alina's like, "What? Hang on a minute. What do you mean other fires?" She's furious. "You didn't tell me." And then she walks out because now she knows that this wasn't just a fluke or an accident or a childish prank that went wrong. This is a serial arsonist who's responsible for the death of her child.
I think it had already been established that Alina didn't know about Hope's arsonism, but it was a surprise to me. I don't know why it wouldn't have come up before, apart from
because they were deliberately they were deliberately hiding it from Alina, I think.
Yeah, I think they were, but I don't know whether somebody else had mentioned it. I don't know.
Anyway,
Ruby might have mentioned it.
Anyway, Alina goes back to Tyrone and says, "I found something out," and he's like, "Uh-oh, you know about the fact that me and Fizz kissed?" Because I forgot about that as well. And she says, "No, I know about the fires that Hope has been setting. How many other secrets are you keeping from me?" Then he just admits that he and Fizz had a moment the other week and they kissed each other, and she's absolutely gutted. He tries to excuse himself and saying, "Oh, we had all this history, blah, 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 blah." And she, out with it, says, "Do you want to get back with her?" And he doesn't say no. He says, "It's not that straightforward." Oh my God.
He's still hedging his bets a little bit, isn't he?
And then Alina's like really cutting here. "Did you really love me, or was it just the idea of me?" Oh, she realises now that Tyrone was not really in love with Alina. He was in love with anyone who filled an Alina-shaped hole. It was
always obsession and infatuation. It became very clear quite early on in the relationship that he felt out of his depth. Just as soon as she started putting those hashtags up on the wall or whatever, he realised that this is not... He didn't realise what he was getting into, but he was too proud to back down, and now he realises that he's got himself into a bit of a hole.
Whoops. An Alina-shaped hole. Phill turns up at number 9 for his lunch date to Fizz, and she's forgotten all about it because she's frazzled. And he says, I don't mind. I'll take you out whether you're ready or not. And she says, I can't. I'm too frazzled, which is what I just said. Don't know why I've picked that word up twice. She gives her smile to herself because he agrees to stay for a cup of tea. And, you know, I find Phill, I like him, but he's far too accommodating with all this nonsense, isn't he? He's not a real person. Real person.
He's just supposed to be the perfect man.
No real person would walk into this absolute S show of a situation and go, I'm completely fine with this. I don't mind. Take as long as you like. Why is he being such a nice bloke?
He's just a nice guy. Some of us are.
He's a doormat is what he is.
Some of us just are that as well.
Some of us are just doormats. So Emma finds Alina upset in her flat and finds out about everything that happened. And then she drops her own bombshell. I am pregnant again. What am I going to do? I tell you what you shouldn't have done. Had unprotected sex with a stupid man. Or any man. Never. I mean, for goodness sake, he could have all sorts going on. You don't know what he's been doing with Fizz. You don't know what Fizz has picked up off of Phill.
Yeah. And that Maria as well. Tyrone's, if she's one of his exes, she's town bike, isn't she?
Fizz tells Phill about the kiss, and she says, I'm just as bad as Alina, but I am glad I kissed him because, here's my bombshell, it made me realise I don't love him anymore. This whole, that episode was full of really great revelations from all of these characters. Really progressed this storyline. It was great. There were loads of twists and turns in just those 2 episodes. And I just kind of love this revenge of Fizz getting her own back on stupid Tyrone, who's finally realised he's made the worst mistake of his life and he can't do anything about it. Absolutely love the karma here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm very much enjoying it. I think it partly is because in my head I still think that they're going to get back together again, which is what I want. But I'm definitely enjoying all the twists and turns along the way.
I think they're investing so much in the breakup of Fizz and Tyrone that it seems inevitable they will get back together.
Phill is very much, unfortunately, because I really like Jamie McKenna in the role. I think he is just a stopgap, this perfect guide that Fizz goes off with. But something's going to happen where she realises, oh no, I do just want to be with Tyrone, or maybe his deep dark secret is going to be revealed. Or
he's a character that is only in the show to get Fizz. And when he leaves, it's not like he's going to be, is he going to go out with Maria or...
No.
When they break up, I mean, he's just going to leave, I'm pretty sure.
I was surprised to see him again back this week because he's not been in it for a while, has he? So I thought that he'd served his purpose a couple of months ago.
Well, like you, I also really like him and I would be very happy for him to stay on the show, but I just can't see... His role is boyfriend, and who would he be the boyfriend of after Fizz? I don't know. Anyway, Tyrone goes back to the garage and finds the picture of him and Alina together with the word liar graffitied across the front. Beth and everybody are there laughing at him. Tyrone goes home and Emma says Alina has gone. And Tyrone's hating himself, hating his life. Oh no, why does this happen to me, Tyrone? I'm such a nice bloke.
Emma
says to him, what are you going to do about the baby? And Tyrone's like, what baby? And then he dashes outside and finds her getting into a taxi. She's been waiting outside for him to come and...
Just so she can make her dramatic accent.
And she says, this baby will have nothing to do with you. I'm going back to Romania. And then the taxi drives off. Tyrone chases after like the dog he is. Then he mooches around the street, does a wee on a tree and sees Phill and Fizz having a nice laugh at the other end. And he's left all alone at the Rovers, just like he should be. Stand outside in the rain and be miserable for the rest of your life, Tyrone. And you'll
forgive him. You'll forgive him one day. Thursday.
Tyrone's on the phone, leaving messages to Alina, but she's not answering at all. And Emma will not say where he is.
She is.
And this really made me laugh as well, because she says she's gone back to Romania, to her village, and he can't remember where that is or what it was called.
He should have said something like, it was a really long, complicated name.
I think he said that.
I can't remember what he said. I think he just said I'd forgotten, but...
Like, the gall of this man, he didn't even listen to her when she was trying to explain where she lived.
To be fair, she might have just said it to him, and it's like got lots of funny accents and things
Excuse
over
me?
it, and he's just forgotten. He might not have seen it written down.
She Googled it and showed him pictures.
Oh yeah.
He didn't even go, I know what I can do. Go on Google and look in the search history. No, he can't even be bothered for that.
That's true, actually.
He's such a dope. He says, you've got to tell me because she's carrying my child. And I was like, well, you don't even deserve to see her if you don't even know where in Romania she's gone. Because
no, that is very true.
Because she planned a trip there with him. He was going to go to this place that he hasn't remembered the name of.
He got strong-armed into the trip. I don't know why I'm being so defensive of Tyrone.
If you've got a partner who's from a different country, I don't understand why you wouldn't be fascinated to learn everything about them and where they're from, what's it like.
Yes, because he's in love with the idea of Alina and not Alina's country or heritage or culture or anything.
Evelyn meets Tyrone in the cafe and he's down in the dumps. He says Alina's pregnant and Evelyn immediately gets on the case. She goes to get it out of Emma to find out where Alina is. So Emma is working behind the bar in the Rovers, so Evelyn rocks up and starts to order drinks and starts doing Sudoku and being annoying.
Yeah, she's doing annoyingly loud humming.
So eventually
Emma
breaks down and tells Evelyn that Alina has not even left the country yet. She's staying at the only hotel in Weatherfield, the Chariot Square Hotel, and she's going to fly out tonight.
And she's hanging about in the only room in the Chariot Square Hotel, the lobby. Not the lobby, what is it? It's like the bar, sorry, yeah.
For some reason, she's hanging around the bar, which you would assume is upstairs or not near the entrance. Anyway, so she's wheeling her luggage out again as Tyrone catches up with her. And he says, I'm not trying to stop you, but you can't let me miss out on the child. I need to be able to be involved with my kid. And she says, there is no baby, I just got my dates wrong. It's probably for the best. I don't know why I'm going French there. I want to be being a single mother in Romania is not ideal. No hard feelings. Go home, Tyrone. So, Tyrone goes home. No baby. Tells Kevin, I'm going to get Fizz back. And Kevin laughs, like, basically, well, I don't know if he actually laughs, but he basically says, there's no way you can get her back. You don't mess her about. She's happy with Phill. It's not going to work.
Well, Kev's got his own issues at the moment, hasn't he? Because Abby's gone walkabout.
I know, love advice from Kev. I mean, the thing is, he's right. Even Kevin, the Neanderthal, can tell that Tyrone is barking up the wrong tree.
Although when he went off with Natalie Barnes, when he was in his own story like that, he did get Sal back at the end of the year, didn't he?
Well, he's telling him not to even bother. It's not going to work. In the bistro, Fizz is moaning to Phill about Tyrone, and Phill doesn't mind. He's, the ultimate sponge for all of Fizz's sad emotions, and she invites Phill back home for coffee. And this was a really funny scene, and it was really well filmed as well. We'll talk about that at the end, I think. So back at number 9, Tyrone is setting up a beautiful romantic table for two with, was there flowers and candles and red wine
mini bars.
and a lovely big, very handily long white tablecloth. So Fizz and Phill come in, and Tyrone panics and hides under the table. And Fizz says, oh, wow, look at this. Evelyn must have left this for us. What a weird conclusion. But then, what else would it be? A ghost? Mm. So she assumes it's Evelyn. And they're like, oh, how lovely. It was so funny.
Tyrone's there under the tablecloth.
He's listening.
Oh. And when he lifts up the bottom of the cloth, doesn't he? And there's a couple of the shoes there.
Oh, we'll talk about it now then. Basically, there's a pair of men's shoes, which obviously doesn't have a foot in it. And I assume it's Din McElpoin's feet.
Yeah,
or it could
ankles.
Be, yeah, and they're just like next to each other, obviously kissing. But I thought it was a really funny way to film that and demonstrate what was happening, because we saw it from his perspective, and obviously you can't see their faces. So he's listening to their kissing. Then they sit on the sofa and start to get
getting hot and heavy, aren't they?
And Fizz starts
She's
making
like, oh, you
fun.
tasted red wine.
Yeah, and then Fizz starts making fun of Tyrone
Music.
because
you totally do this.
Excuse me, because they want to put music on, and he says, have you got anything good? And she says, yeah, since Tyrone's moved out, he took all his crap music with him. His favourite song was Reach for the Stars by Steps, and you had exactly the same reaction.
I
as
was
Tyrone.
quicker than Tyrone. Tyrone took a good 3 or 4 seconds to leap out from under the table and say, "Excuse me, that's Club 7," but I was right on it. I was like, "No, that's not
And then
Steps."
you went,
and
it
it's not
wasn't-
even called Reach for the Stars. It's just called Reach. So Tyrone, you don't even know.
So if I'm ever playing hide and seek with you and I really cannot find where you are, I'll just start saying...
Just make a mistake of it,
I'll say,
something that I'm
Steps,
nerdy about.
Reach for the Stars by Steps, and you'll burst out wherever you're hiding and go, "It was S Club 7!"
Yeah, it's like that bit, and in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Have you seen that much?
I love that film.
Where Judge Doom is going around looking for the tunes, and Roger and that
Yeah.
hiding in the wall, and he does this, and then Roger has to burst out going, I can't remember what's
Shaving
the
a
word?
haircut.
Yeah, 2 cents or 2 bits.
2 bits.
So, yeah, Tyrone just couldn't help himself. That's what I would be like.
What a great recounting of that story.
I know.
The penny
You
drops
get the gist of it.
that it was Tyrone who set this romantic table up. Right in front of Phill, Tyrone says, "I want you back. I must have you. I love you." And she says, "Sling your hook." And he skulks out. He goes and finds Evelyn and fills her in on what's been going on. She can't believe this. He says, you literally just need to stop. Everything you've done is wrong. Everything you're doing, just stop all of it. Tyrone says, "I can't stand back and watch Phill waltz off with Fizz," and he also says that Alina is not pregnant. And then we cut to Alina in the airport in a bar, and the bartender, for some reason, comes out and says, "What can I get you, madam?"
No, he says, "Would you like me to get you the wine list, madam?"
She says, "No, thank you, I am pregnant with a stupid man's child."
She says, tomato juice.
She did very subtle. She went, "I'll have tomato juice. I've got a funny tummy." And she rubs her stomach.
Pats her belly, yeah.
She's still pregnant.
Mm.
Dum, dum, dum. Which means that maybe 5 years she'll rock up with a kid.
Or she'll die.
Or she'll die in Romania.
She might do a Katie Armstrong, mightn't she?
It's very dangerous in Romania. Especially for a single mother.
Yeah.
So, on Friday, Phill turns up at the garage. He says, "You told me ages ago that you would help me if I need my car fixed. So just check we're still cool mates and everything's hunky-dory. I thought I'd bring my car in for you to fix. And I wanted to know, are we still cool?" And Tyrone's like, "Whatever." And then Phill says...
And Phil's not the sort that's like crowing about it. He's not saying, "Oh yeah, we're still friends, aren't we?" Knowing that Tyrone is hating every minute. He's just genuinely being nice.
He's basically being like, "We're going to be in each other's lives. I'm serious about Fizz. I'm going to be around your kids and I want us to get along." He's far more mature about this.
Oh yeah, Tyrone's being incredibly petulant
Tyrone
about
is like, is acting towards him like the child to the new stepdad. Like,
S Club 7 dad.
"Oh, you don't know anything about cool music, Dad." So he also says, "I'll come to my special football thing that I've got tickets for." And so I was like, "No, I don't even really like football." And it feels like, "Whatever, fine." Walks off, and Tyrone's like, "Oh, he's such a clown, I hate him." And Kevin's like, "What are you being such a dick for?" He's annoyed because everyone's found out that he was hiding under a table and only came out because of a discussion about 90s pop bands. And everyone's making fun of him. Fizz comes and asks Tyrone to look after the girls because Phill is taking them out for their tea. I don't understand that. He just basically...
This is on Friday when my notes start breaking down. Phil's taking Fizz out for tea, but I've written the girls here. And she wants Tyrone to babysit. And
she also reminds him that it's time for Hope's therapy appointment, and he'd forgotten about this. He rushes around to get ready, and then they start bickering because Fizz suggests that they get a second opinion from somebody, but then when he finds out it's a therapist pal of Phil's, Tyrone doesn't like it. And then Kevin gets annoyed with Tyrone later because he's fed up with hearing about all his woes. He's like, "I've got my own problems. My fiance's buggered off because her son was murdered.
My fiance's buggered off because the actress who plays her has got COVID. I don't know what to do."
This must be so frustrating for Kevin because all the things that have happened to Kevin are things out of his control. But Tyrone's all self-inflicted, this whole thing.
What do you mean everything that happened to Kevin's out of his control? What are you talking about?
Well, he's
about the
got
Aadi
his problems,
thing. Yeah.
and because of Abby,
Yeah.
and he's just trying to be a supportive partner to his girlfriend who's going through the worst time of her life. And then you've got Tyrone going, my girlfriend's gone to Romania because I didn't know which town she lived in because they're too hard to remember. Oh. She's learned a whole language. She can't remember what her village is called. Anyway, he gets fed up with this. Tyrone is doing Phil's car and he finds a napkin with Brigitte written on it and a number, and he's convinced that he's found evidence that Phill is having it off with somebody else. And Kevin's like, you're stupid. There's no way. We're in a soap. This is the red herring. Anytime you find a number or you see a man with a woman, it's always his sister or some kind of red herring.
I would say it's a ginger herring because it's in Phil's car.
Who was it? It was Curtis who had his friend from...
Oh, yeah.
Where am I? Fizz looked amazing, didn't she? She scrubbed up really nicely.
Look very nice. She was in her award show get-up, was Jenny McAlpine.
That dress, where's that dress from? I want that dress. She looked fantastic, and she always has gorgeous hair. We all know that.
She this is when, was it Hope? It must have been Hope, because Ruby's fallen down the sinkhole again. She said, oh, you look like, what was it, Merida from Brave? I thought that.
Brave.
Not Brave.
Maybe
you look like Mel
Braveheart. Gibson.
Maybe take the easy on the blue makeup there, Mum.
Maybe shave your beard as well. She looks great. Tyrone says, be careful, you barely know him. Ask him about Brigitte. Or Bridget, I think.
I think he says Bridget, yeah.
Well, I would have called her Bridget. Anyway, Phill turns up and it turns out, this is weird, she's just doing a tasting menu for us and we're going to have a table on the red rack.
Was it on the red rack? I was falling asleep.
Or something. Anyway, they're having a lovely meal. Tyrone's moping about the tasty menu that they're going to have to get. And I
want a tasting menu.
Tasty menu. Phill is basically Fizz's dream guy, and Kev's like, I don't even care. I'm going to use these fancy football tickets. And Tyrone's just mad because everyone else is getting everything they want except for Tyrone. Why?
Oh, I am glad that he's getting some kind of just desserts. He does deserve it, but
the thing is, the more they punish him, the more I'm worried that this Coronation Street will deem that sufficient for him to then be able to win.
That's exactly what it is, I think.
He has to go through this like fire, the fire of like cleansing fire of retribution before he's allowed to be worthy of Fair Fizz's heart once more. But I don't want them to get back together because he's such an idiot. He doesn't deserve her.
I'm wondering what's going to happen in the end because I mean, you said you think that it's a stopgap and Fizz and Tyrone are going to get together. Is Phill going to have a secret, or is he going to get sick of Tyrone in the end and lamp him one and Fizz goes running to him, or is it just going to be something with the girls? I don't know. But they'll get back together.
I want Phill to say, Tyrone, I'm sick of your nonsense, and then boot him down a well, like in 300.
They're just so lovely, though.
Who are?
Fizz and Phill.
Oh, yes, exactly. The thing is, Phill does not have a personality beyond, I am a kind and supportive partner for my girlfriend.
He's quite
like?
funny as well.
Oh, and another thing that happened was that Tyrone was going through the logbook of Phil's car and admiring the service history, which I thought was such a weird scene. Is this what men do? It's like how men bond with each other. Like, I can't... What TV programmes do you like? Oh, not the same as you. Do you like pies? Not really. Do you like beer? I'm more of a cider guy. But check out my service log. Wow!
Regular.
We can be friends now.
So Alina, Gemma, gone. Did you know that she was going at all?
No.
I'd seen, unfortunately, like a month and a half ago maybe, I don't remember when it was, there was some pictures on the internet of Ritzandra and a few of the others looking like they were maybe having a leaving party out in Manchester together, and then like the headlines are like, fans are worried that Alina might be leaving Coronation Street because and I was like, but I had forgotten about it. So when it came out on this week, I was like, and I certainly didn't expect it to be happening this soon. I wasn't mentally prepared at all. It moved very, very quickly this week.
I saw the picture and I didn't even think anything about it. Well, I'll like, whenever I see pictures of the cast members out in recent times, even though it's fine, everyone's allowed to do everything. Like, we had people around today. We're all double vaxxed anyway. Whenever I see a cast on a picture out, my first thought is, "Ooh, they're gonna get in trouble," even though they're not. But and then beyond that, I think nothing more. So I think I'm a bit too thick to have picked up on that spoiler.
Well, she's definitely gone. It was weird. She kind of posted on Instagram on after Wednesday's episode, didn't she? Saying, "Oh, that's a wrap on Coronation Street." But she did actually have one episode left in her. So when she turned up again on Thursday's episode, I thought that was a bit weird.
Well, this was the thing, because we missed. People might be confused, because this week was a bit weird, because last week we missed an episode. So this week we had four days of Corrie. So one of them was from last week, and unfortunately...
Yeah, it wasn't. I was just going to say, it wasn't. It must have been not scheduled this way, because this
So
Norris Cole tribute
This is
programme.
what I was going to say. Yeah. There was a spoiler on Monday, because in between the two Corries, unrelated to anything to do with Norris, was the Goodbye Norris programme. So people that watch that would be going, "Oh, he's left the show," and then the next episode, they're like, "Oh, Norris wants to talk to us." Oh. We'll talk about it later,
so
but
it was supposed to be between
it kind of
the two
ruined
episodes that were broadcast on Wednesday in the end, yeah.
It totally ruined that storyline. I bet somebody's fuming.
Gemma, would you like to read out Roxandra's quote from Instagram?
Because I'm not doing Roxandra's voice, am I? I'm doing Alina's voice.
That's far too hard to do.
No, I don't want to make fun of a real person.
She says, "That's a wrap on Corrie. Thanks to everyone who encouraged and supported me. It meant so much. I work with some of the finest people who are not only extremely talented, but very humble and caring. They made me feel welcome and a part of this beautiful family. Ta, everyone. People up north here are well nice. Hashtag Alina, hashtag Corrie."
Nice, good.
She learnt ta.
She learnt how to say ta.
So she has definitely gone. I don't know whether we'll see her again or not. I mean, the door has been left open, hasn't it, with this pregnancy? And I kind of like the twists and turns in it this week. When she said, "Oh, I'm pregnant again," I thought, "Oh, no, I don't want you to be pregnant," because by that time I still didn't know whether she was leaving or what was going to happen, because I'd forgotten. But then when on the next episode she said, "Oh, I got my dates wrong, I'm not really pregnant," and half of me was thinking, "Oh, that's good, because I could do without her being pregnant." But the other one was like, how were you so certain that you were pregnant, and now you're just saying you got your dates wrong? And you were saying, some women are really regular with their periods and some aren't. So you might know, but I wouldn't have thought she would have said so confidently on the Wednesday episode, "I'm pregnant," or Monday, whenever it was, if she hadn't taken a test. So I was thinking that's a bit sloppy writing, really. But it doesn't matter, because it wasn't, because she was just making it up, wasn't she? Because it turns out she is actually pregnant, and that was a nice twist. Although I think you predicted it a few scenes before the actual reveal came, didn't you? You said, "I don't think she is." I think she is still pregnant.
Yeah, I said she is still pregnant.
The airport scene confirmed it.
When she only said that to get rid of him.
Yeah. But it wasn't obvious. I think some people were definitely taken by surprise in the airport scene, and we weren't, because you'd said that. Although I think that they flubbed it a little bit. I would have preferred for her not to have rubbed her belly. If they'd have just left it with her saying, "I want a tomato juice," it wouldn't have made it so obvious. But this way it was like, "She's definitely pregnant." She should have just
said, "I'm pregnant" to somebody. The way they...
No, I don't think it should have. I think it should have still been left.
No, that's my joke.
What?
Because they made it so obvious.
Oh, they made it super obvious.
They had two things. They might as well have had her go, "No, thank you, I don't want anything. I'm going to look at the baby magazines."
I think that they definitely should not have confirmed that she was pregnant. I mean, they didn't, I suppose. But if they could have left it with people speculating about whether she's pregnant or not, and is this going to happen? And now it's like, well, yeah, she obviously is pregnant, and we will probably see some baby at some point in the future. But now if they'd have just had her wanting a tomato juice...
Yes, exactly. It would have been better. The way they did it, they might as well have had her phone up. "Hello, Mum. Yes, I will be home soon. Oh, I cannot wait for you to meet your new grandchild when he is hatched out of me, because I am pregnant."
She might as well have just gone to the ticket desk and booked a return flight for 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Bit
can
obvious.
I also get an extra seat for my baby?
But that was my only criticism with that, I suppose. What have we got? The thing is, and Emma still knows where she is, and Tyrone... I suppose Tyrone's got no reason. No, he doesn't, because he thinks that she's not pregnant now, doesn't she? I mean, this shows how much... This is going to show how much she did care for her.
Not at all.
But if Fizz has now made it very, very clear, I don't want you anymore, Tyrone, he might say, well, maybe Alina will take me back because I'm a pretty
donkey.
I'm quite a catch. And
No.
No. So I don't know. I don't need to see this baby ever again. I think that's part of my problem with it.
You know that
I don't want him to have a spare child hanging around.
Spare child? What, in case he needs a kidney transplant?
Yeah.
This is my prediction. Phill and Fizz will just eventually decide that they're not meant for each other because Fizz will realise she loves Tyrone because she sees him so sad and she and he's just going to mope around. Then she'll be the one to get back with him. And then Phill will leave, and then they'll be happy. And then 5 years' time, Alina will rock back up with the kid, or the kid will turn up by itself in a box.
Well, we said that Kirsty had come back, didn't we? But she never did. She got killed off. So maybe the same will happen to Alina. Just before we move on to the next story, brilliant comedy scene of the week, Emma reacting to Kathy's story about playing Twister. So what she was just, I mean, it's so cliche, wasn't it? And that's what Twister's all about. It's about getting into a bit compromising positions with your mates. In innuendo, exactly. So, but the scene, if you haven't seen it and you just listened to this for the first time, keep an eye out because you don't even see Kathy, do you? She's there in the background at the Rovers bar and Emma's just in the booth with the camera slowly panning around and listening, and we can see Emma's bizarre reactions to Kathy's
like saying
increasingly innuendo-laden stories.
Yes. Very funny.
Very funny. Great reactions. Love that a lot. Should we move on to the next story? So coal in a hole / coal burner / whatever happens to him next week. Sad times, Gemma. Norris is no more. This was Wednesday that the story first happened, wasn't it? I've got Monday in my notes, I've got my days wrong and everything. So Ken and Rita are talking about Norris. Ken is back from Southampton. We've let him go.
We said we're done.
Yeah.
We're done, Ken. You've actually outstayed your
He was
welcome.
actually the person living in this house before us and we kicked him out this week. So
why have you got a mirrored wall in your bedroom, you weird
The reason that... You know why Ken's got a mirrored wall. He's a bit of a player, isn't he? He has come back because Norris has sent him a cryptic text that he's got some secret information to tell him and he's got to come back and tell him face to face. It's vital.
It's important.
So Ken's he's not too sure about going over to Stillwaters because he doesn't want to get into a compromising situation with Claudia again after their breakup. But so he decides I'm going to go and see Mary to see if she knows anything that's going on. No, Mary's got no idea. And
she's still harbouring a grudge about Freda.
She is. It's established at the beginning of this story that she's got beef with Freda because Norris obviously was her best friend and now she's going out with Freda and yada yada yada.
Well, Norris was her husband.
I don't accept that. But yes, she was technically married to Norris as well. And she's also pretty upset that she wasn't invited to see Norris to get this gossip. I don't know why Norris didn't invite Mary, but...
We'll never know now.
No, we will never know. So Ken's still putting it off later on, going over to the retirement home. And Jenny says, well, look, why don't you invite him and Freda here? And so Ken's like, what's a fantastic idea. He's not locked down there anymore. He was only here last year. So he goes to call him, but a paramedic answers. Uh-oh, what's gone on there? So what?
The paramedic answers going, look, mate, he's dead now because I answered the phone. Could you not phone me while I'm trying to save someone's life?
Yes. So Mary finds Ken and Rita jumping into a taxi later, and the story is that Norris has collapsed with a suspected stroke, and now he's in hospital. So they hot-foot it up to Weatherfield General, where they find Freda with the announcement that Norris has died, everybody. Norris Cole is no more, so sad.
I was sadder about this, and I thought I would be, because we knew Malcolm Pebden decided not to return for health reasons. So we knew we wouldn't see the character again necessarily. But then I was always like, oh, he might come back for a cameo or do a Zoom call or something. But no.
He is done. He's gone. He's twitched his last curtain.
Sorting newspapers in heaven.
Yeah. Oh, I hope Angela's not there waiting for him with her rolling pin. Angela and Myrtle waiting to double. No.
What? Derek's there as well.
Yeah.
Derek's there with a club.
So Rita is obviously mega upset about this. She was working with Norris at the cabin for a long time. She's not known him the long. I mean, her and Ken have both known him for.
Well, when you get to a certain...
30-odd years, nearly.
This is the thing.
When you get to a certain age, you know everybody.
No, I was going to say, when you're younger and somebody very close to you dies, you feel cheated because you know that you've had not enough time with them. And then when you get older and your friends begin to die because you're old, that's another facet, and you're losing everyone that was close to you one by one.
Yeah, well, Rita and Ken are both getting on a bit, aren't they?
I think this is the most tragic part of human life.
They didn't they look frail? Didn't they look? I mean, this was Ken coming back.
About this.
Well, William Roach had COVID, so he's been recovering from this, and hopefully he'll be able to.
I don't like talking about how people look on the show because I do think it's none of our business. But people have said that Ken looks quite a lot older than he did before, and I just want to point out that he had been ill, and I think he's lost weight, and that's why he looks a bit older, because when you lose weight when you're an older person, it enhances.
Well, yeah, like Brian Molesley before we played Alf Roberts before he died as well. He looked not that I'm saying that Ken's Phill Roach is.
No, this is the thing. This is why it's difficult to talk about. I don't really like talking about it, but hopefully he's well.
Yes.
There's nothing that we don't know any. Literally, it was. I think it was just COVID.
He's got a good 25 years in him still. Don't worry about that.
He's going to go in Corrie till he's 108.
I thought it was 107. He's going to go for.
Well, we'll ask him.
Maybe he's going to die at 107. They'll stuff him and use him in the programme for the age of sitting in the armchair or something, or have his head in a jar.
Stop it.
A head in a jar like a Futurama.
Stop it.
Okay, so we hear the story about what Rick Norris was up to when he died, and apparently he was utterly convinced that Claudia had been having an affair with Charles, who was that evil head of the Residents Association that Ken thwarted in the elections the other year, and Norris was trying to catch them at it, climbing up a tree with a telephoto lens, and that's when his stroke happened. But he died peacefully at hospital, so that was nice to hear that he wasn't, suffering or in pain or anything. It was a fairly dignified exit up to this point. Really? Although I have opinions. Well, the dying peacefully in hospital bit.
I thought but the process began in a bush.
Up a tree, I think.
Yeah, he fell out of the tree and ended up in a bush.
Yeah. Anyway, so they start talking about how regretful they are about not being able to visit him during the pandemic, and I think that COVID was a good excuse here. But it was kind of saying, we lost touch. It was a bit of a pain to go all the way over there.
This is what's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, when lots of older people get shipped off to homes or whatever, they just get isolated. I mean, when they first go there, they get visited, but then it dwindles, sadly.
This is the thing. I always worry about what's going to happen to us in the future because we don't have children, and this is one of the things that people say. Oh, when you're old, who's going to look after you? Like they're breeding their own caretakers, which I think is a bit odd. But I remember when we went to a care home, there's a care home here that's got a restaurant in it that's got like awards and stuff, and we went there, didn't we?
Yeah, very tasty, mushy food. Yeah,
and behind us there were two old ladies talking about how sad they were and trying to one-up each other about how infrequently their children come to see them. And I just thought, well, there's no point. You can't predict what's going to happen or who's going to visit you when you're old.
And Norris ain't got no children, so he had to rely on his friends. But
and his brother's dead.
See him as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ramsey's there waiting for him, I'm sure.
Oh, Ramsey and Norris in heaven.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to make friends. Maybe Norris will reconcile with him.
Maybe. Let's imagine that.
Let's imagine it.
Okay, so the word starts to spread at the Rovers. Jenny has to announce to everyone. And then
does she ding ding ding?
I can't remember whether she ding ding dings at this point, but she makes this grand announcement that Norris is dead, and there's kind of a respectful silence for about a second, and then Emma says, "Oh, no, she says, oh no, is he all right?"
I thought that was fantastic.
I didn't absolutely love this week's Coronation Street. It had its highs and its lows, but when it had its comedy highs, it was brilliant. And we both burst out laughing at Emma here.
She was great.
That was such an Emma thing to say. And
she's great.
She didn't say it as if she's checking if he's all right. She said, I meant, is she all right? But that was absolutely brilliant timing, brilliant delivery, very much in character. That was hilarious. That
was proper on point, that was. And I just want to say that Friday's episode was rubbish, but I was enjoying this week so much.
Yeah, you had been. I've been so on it, but it had some real comedy highlights. They started talking with Kathy. Kathy says, "Oh, he was such a lovely man as well." And Jenny does this look, doesn't she? Like,
that was really fantastic.
That was a great little expression.
Again, acting from Sally Matthews.
Yeah, and so they all say they agree that he was an important part of the street and programme that they're all in, and it's sad that he has gone. So Rita, Ken, and Mary come back to the Rovers later. They've told Emily, who I'm sure is going to have some kind of great excuse for not turning up to the funeral next week. Jenny's defrosted a party platter from the freezer, and they'll have a nice little reminisce about Norris. And they have their own icons programme.
I love
in their heads.
I love Mary saying, "Oh, I'm gonna miss him slagging off all the neighbours to me."
Yeah. There were some nice little lines there. It was from Wednesday onwards, I think, that it started to go downhill.
Well, Rita says, "I've lost one of the best friends I had in my life."
Yeah. And Mavis is like, "Excuse me, you haven't visited me during the pandemic
she
either."
She said one of the best friends.
Yes, I know. So Wednesday then was when Mary started taking over, and she got my goat again. I've spoken many times on the podcast about how I've only got a certain amount of patience for Mary, and it didn't last very long on this episode, because she ends up... She goes to the funeral as the Undertaker's first thing on Wednesday's episode, doesn't she? Every bit the grieving widow with a big, dark glasses and everything. And she says, "Oh, I was married to him. I was his last living spouse and
living relative." Yeah,
and George says, "Okay, well, let's get all the affairs in order and everything, and what we're going to do for this funeral." But little does Freda know that this is happening, because obviously, as Norris's partner at the time of his death, it probably should be her that's making the arrangements here.
This raised an interesting question in my mind, which is, who is responsible, and how does an undertaker actually know that
first come, first served?
But the person who comes to arrange a funeral, have there ever been any crazy situations where an undertaker has been approached to do a funeral, like someone who's still alive, as a weird psych out on them?
I'm sure they've seen all sorts.
What I mean? But can you have more? I guess you can have more than one funeral if you don't have a body.
I suppose so.
Somebody could arrange a rival funeral. I'm just really thinking, there must be loads of.
You're just giving the storyline. There's lots of ideas, Gemma, for comedy capers at the Undertakers.
It's not necessarily comedy, but it would be a really interesting thing. If there's two factions in a family and they can't agree. I mean, this was played for laughs, but what do you do as an undertaker? How do you prove who's the person? Whose orders do you take, or do you just whoever pays you?
Yeah, I suppose maybe they split the body down the middle. It's probably that.
Oh, just what's his face?
Just Samson as in the baby, yeah.
Samson?
What? Was it? I don't know.
King Solomon.
Oh, was it Solomon? All right.
I don't know.
No, I think you're right.
Samson was the one with the lovely hair.
Yeah. So Gemma offers Freda her condolences when she sees him in the street. And they start talking about Norris, and there's lots of signing going on between them and everything, which ties in with the Alid deafness story. And what's my notes doing now? They're all over the place. And so they know. Freda says that she's nervous about going to the Undertakers and getting it all sorted. So Gemma says, "It's all right, I'll come along with you." So they rock up at George's, and they're surprised to find that he's already working on it, and very annoyed to realise that Mary's the one that's taking over. Not only that, but she has, in true Mary style, some very outlandish ideas, like, horses with frills and bagpipes and things. She talks about a giant floral stapler.
That's such a weird thing.
Yes, it is a weird thing.
It reminds. I don't know whether it was a callback to Derek.
Derek and his paperclip.
So Derek Wilton was in the show years ago, and he was a rival, frenemy of Norris.
Yeah.
And he...
rival stationer.
Yeah, he worked in a stationery company, and then one of the things he had was a paperclip on the top of his car, like Michael just said, to advertise his business. But I wouldn't have said a stapler was a symbolic of a news agent.
It was just a stupid thing to say, let's make this a comedy story.
Don't get mad
and I've not
about
got too mad about all the comedy funeral stuff. I know a lot of people have, like a Ted's funeral and everything, and I wasn't too bothered about this, but I did think that a lot of this was quite disrespectful to the character of Norris, and I can only think that next week, I hope they do a good job. I have seen one or two spoiler pics from next week, and there's one element of that I've seen that I think that's ridiculous. Why is that happening? And I'm sure you can guess what it is if you've seen the pictures too. I hope they give him a decent send-off, because he's such a legacy character. He was in the show since, 94, I think? And he deserves better than just some ridiculous Mary-fueled cringe fest. So... anyway, they're mad at Mary, Freda and Gemma are, and Freda goes over to Mary and says that you need to stay clear of this. You've got no right to organise Norris's funeral. And she says, oh, I knew what Norris wanted. But eventually she does back down. And this happens a few times during the week. She backs down and then goes ridiculous again. She says, I've gone a bit gung-ho and I promise to ask you permission for anything that I need, everything I think before I organise it. But then this is when she phones up the bagpiper, actually, isn't it? So it turns out that she's organised a bagpiper to play the music from the Hovis advert. Thank you. What's your fact about that advert, Gemma? Not filmed up north.
We've cobbles down south. We've got such great cobbles down south that they filmed our cobbles for an advert set in the north.
I know. Freda massively wound up at this point, as was I. I'm totally team Freda on this one. Mary's still thinking it over later. She wants a load of flowers. Freda says Norris hated flowers. He wouldn't like the idea of lining Tracy's pockets either. And then Claudia turns up fabulously.
I love this.
I thought this was fantastic. Again, unfortunately, because I'd seen a few spoilery pics when they filmed the funeral, I did know that Rula Lenska was making a comeback. Massive surprise. I thought that she was done with the programme, but she has always been a character that just swans in every now and then. But wonderful. Thank you for bringing Claudia back. I love her. And they kind of finished the episode talking about how much they miss Norris. She says, oh yeah, he was hanging around me quite a lot in the last few weeks.
This was really funny and a bit, I thought it was kind of subtle, but maybe I was tired.
I didn't think it was
I thought
subtle.
I was being clever.
No, it obviously was Norris trying to camp out next to Claudia wherever he could, so he could get evidence of her and Charles having this affair. And there's Claudia kind of gives a look that makes out that yes, maybe there was some truth to this little story.
Is this the scene where she's talking about him and then they say he was interested in birds because it's the mating season?
Yeah.
And Claudia kept hinting that about it, but Claudia didn't get any other hints because she doesn't realise that they
knew. Yeah, so when Freda says Norris thought you were having an affair with Charles, how ridiculous is that? Claudia's like, I hope it doesn't need to go any further than
it
this.
Just was
really,
a funny
really
joke. It doesn't need to elaborate.
And then they decide to have the wake at the Rovers without any bagpipes. So they reach a bit of a compromise at the end of the episode. Although Friday's episode starts with them arguing yet again, Mary is back to trying to take charge of everything. She wants to book an interpreter. Does she want to book an interpreter? She does she not want an interpreter?
No, she wants to be the one that books the interpreter.
For the deaf members of the
I can't believe that
audience.
She thinks that she knows better than Freda, who's a good person to be the interpreter.
So anyway...
Freda's like, no, I'll do it because I want everyone to understand what's going on.
The drama of the day with Gemma and Chesney here is that Alad's operation is booked for the day before the funeral, and I don't know when the funeral is, but I'm guessing that means the operation's going to be Monday's episode and the funeral's going to be Wednesday's episode, possibly.
Or it'll get postponed.
Or it'll be Wednesday to Friday. But Gemma's thinking, oh, Alad will have just come out of his operation. I can't really go to Nozza's funeral. And Chester's like, no, you go along, it's fine. Alad's going to be all right after the operation. You should go.
Well, it's only for an hour or so.
Yeah. Well, it's not the operation itself. The funeral is. Yeah.
But, if you were...
Yeah.
Think about it this way, Michael. If Abby had to have an operation, would you want to do something the next day or would you want to be home with her?
I think I'll probably be fine, to be fair.
Okay. A bit different then.
They what happens next? They just... my notes are totally nonsensical here. This is after I'd fallen asleep. They just argue with each other for the rest of the episode, really.
And
Gemma says, I can't go to the funeral. Oh, yeah, that's right. This is when Gemma says, I can't go to the funeral because of the operation. And then Rita's like... Frida's like, hold up, what operation? Are you getting these cochlear implants? I didn't think you were going to. And Gemma's like, yeah, we think it's probably for the best. And Freda gets on a high horse about this and thinking that she says what she said before about the fact that this is, she's taken away from the deaf community, part of his identity.
You're taking a part of what makes Alad away from him, and you're also turning your back on the deaf community.
Yeah.
And I really love this too, because Gemma was trying to explain herself to Freda, and Freda walked off, which is a massive bit more of a bigger diss as a deaf person than it is for a hearing person. Because as a deaf person, if you turn around and refuse to look at the person, they don't exist. You can't hear them. So I thought that was really kind of interesting, and sort of Gemma's hands fell to her sides.
I'm loving just to a point, all the sign language and everything that's going on with this, it has massively made Gemma so much less of an irritating character. I still don't love her as much as I used to at the beginning, but when I see Gemma come on the screen now, what a difference to a couple of years ago. It was a massive sigh. Here we go, another Gemma scene. I think this has done bucket loads to make her more sympathetic as a character and showing her how well she's picked up the sign language, I sometimes think, why are you signing here? You don't need to sign. But she's not, because wasn't she signing when she was just talking with Chesney? It feels like she's signing all the time.
Yeah, I think she's just practicing.
Yeah, but it's starting to get a little bit much.
Some people are finding it a bit distracting.
Yeah,
I didn't find it distracting, but I was really so into it that when
I'm really fascinated. I like her sign for Norris, which is the little Reg Holdsworth tilt with my glasses thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So didn't you tell me that every that in the deaf community they may cut their own signs to refer to somebody's name or something?
This is what I think. I don't know if this is true for every person, but I believe I've heard that when you introduce yourself to somebody, you'll sign your name with the letters, but then you'll say, "This is my sign." And Norris's sign is like holding your finger and your thumb
together and adjusting your glasses.
Like you're adjusting glasses. But anyway, what I was just saying was I'm really enjoying the signing, and when there is a scene with characters that aren't signing, I kind of am waiting for them to make signs. And the other thing I wanted to say about Gemma and Freda is that even as a signer, Gemma is so big and loud. Like, if you look at how she gestures and uses her signs, she's so much bigger with the way she makes the movements than Freda.
Which are just right for her.
Yeah, it's like she's shouting in sign language, which I think is a really Dolores Campbell, really good.
She's done such a good job
to not only learn to sign, but to sign in character.
Yeah. I think she's done fab, and we only saw a little bit of Chesney this week, thank goodness, and I assume that he's still struggling with the whole signing thing. What was it that I can't remember? He's described himself in 4 words, didn't he? When she goes, he's like, "Oh yeah, good old reliable Chesney" or something. Blimey. So I don't know. Do you think he's going to get the op in the end? I don't know whether he is.
He will get the op.
I think he probably will. I think it's like I said before. I found this interesting, and I really think whether or not you understand or agree with a deaf person who has the opinion that cochlear implants are bad for deaf people because they isolate them from other deaf people, whether or not you agree, I just think the idea that is an opinion is so interesting to me that I never even would have thought about it. And it makes, I just find learning about how people think about things very fascinating. So the fact that Coronation Street has done this, I do think it's an important thing to bring up. And it is interesting to think about, because I don't think Freda's that wrong. I don't agree with her solution, which is don't get the operation at all. But Alid is not going to be a deaf child, and he's not going to be a hearing child. He's going to be a child. I think they both have very strong arguments. I can see both sides of the argument here.
He's never going to hear like we can hear.
No.
But he's never going to be deaf the way that profoundly deaf people are. He's now a third kind of category. But the thing is, the more other children like him get these, that's their new community, isn't it? The deaf community will kind of transition, and change is scary. And when your culture, because deaf culture is a thing, when your culture's under threat, it's very natural to be defensive. I think people can be quite harsh on people like Freda. I don't understand why we're so open about protecting other people's cultures that are under threat, but not deaf people.
Yeah.
I think we should support them, but also encourage cochlear implants, because I don't think it's fair to take the opportunity away from a child. The other thing as well is that the younger you get it, the better you are adjusted to being able to use it.
Yeah. No,
so you can't just wait for the child to decide. A lot of people would say, "Oh, just let the kid decide when they're old enough," but unfortunately, it won't have as good of an effect the later you use it.
If he gets the operation, which we're assuming he will, the signing will probably still go on and everything, won't it? I really like having Freda back in the programme, and I think this is one of the best she's ever been used. And I like Claudia turning up unexpectedly this week, and I wasn't necessarily expecting Freda to come back for this story when she did a few months ago, and it's great. And I see her point of view. It's a bit like how I'm against plastic surgery because it isolates people from the rest of us munters.
Creates a new category of human.
But you know what? We get to go to our munters play group, so we got this.
What are you weirdo? Don't you think life would be better? You know how we always get criticised in England for not learning foreign languages?
Yes.
Which is fair, because everyone else can speak foreign languages, even the Welsh. They can speak more than one language. Wouldn't it be fantastic if we all learned sign language? Wouldn't that actually... I think it would improve everyone's life. Because you can sign to people in a bar and say another pint, please.
I loved this aspect that was brought up about Norris and the fact that he picked it up because he was able to gossip about people in sign. And I'd never thought of that before, but that is absolutely perfect.
See, this is why
I can imagine him, going out with Freda. If there wasn't any benefit for him, he probably wouldn't sign. He's the sort that would just talk loudly. But
that's what George is doing.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? I love how he was gossiping in sign, and that is absolutely perfect.
We talked about learning sign language so we could sign to each other while we're doing the podcast. So if I need to be like, hurry up, I need to go to the toilet.
Every so often when we're recording. Grab my crotch. No, Gemma's sign is usually and I can't do it. Cut your own head off means I need to stop to go to the toilet or get another cider or something.
Yeah. Now you didn't write this down, but part of the reason that Gemma tries to justify the cochlear implant to Freda is the way that George treats her, and also somebody else, I can't remember, but Freda has a couple of moments during this week where, because she's deaf, she gets treated a bit differently and not taken as seriously. And George, for example, talks to Freda like, come to the back room and I'll sort out your payment. Like, she can hear him if he shouts louder. And he's obviously really awkward with her, and he's kind of just awkward. He's not being horrible, but he's like using kid gloves. And
I imagine he has a lot of experience with elderly people who are hard of hearing but not deaf. So for him, he's used to having to speak loudly and clearly to the spouses of the deceased.
But the thing is, if you're deaf and you lip read, talking loudly and making your mouth move differently is going to make it harder for you to read the lips.
Yeah.
So Freda's trying to say to him, I can lip read, you don't need to talk, you don't need to do that. And he can't really get it. And he's just desperately trying to do the right thing, but he's making it worse. And Gemma's pointing this out to Freda, you've got your struggles and I can take that away from my child. I don't want to take his identity away, but I also don't want him to suffer.
Yeah.
And Freda can't appreciate it because she's just being defensive.
So, what did you think? I forgot to put it in the news later on, but did you enjoy the Norris tribute on Monday? I thought it was a fairly
it's great
standard. I like Norris. I wouldn't put Norris anywhere near my top 10 or anything in best characters. I don't have the deep affection and love for him that some people do. He could sometimes be a bit too nasty, but he's a proper classic bit of Corrie, and like I said before about him, he straddles the old and modern Corrie eras really for me, because he came in just at the very end of old Corrie, and he was such a different character back then, wasn't he? He was like so confident and a go-getter and businessman, and he was everything that Derek Wilton wanted to be. But then when he comes back in 99, is it early 2000s, and he transitions into this kind of gossipy old woman sort of character, he deserves a bit of respect, which is why I'm a little bit disappointed with how he's been treating and how his funeral is being treated in the programme. But I did think that the tributes programme was great. Lots of lovely Norris moments there. The Commonwealth Games, which we've just seen on the DVDs, haven't we? When he was a medal bearer, you got your misery with Mary. You got what else was there? Well, lots of other bits with Derek and Mavis as well.
I just thought he was great, and I'm one of these people who never really I feel like I try to appreciate things before they're gone. But whenever I see a programme, like a tribute programme, even if it's somebody like Norris that, like you, I wouldn't necessarily go all top character. But when I watched that, I was like, oh no, Norris, I miss him now.
Yeah. Because when he's gone, he's gone. And this thing is, he has got a death, and there's lots of characters who don't get a death, like Hilda Ogden, possibly still alive,
immortal.
Yeah, exactly. And so Emily, like, will she get a death? I don't know.
I wonder whether Eileen Derbyshire has said not until I go.
It's going to be weird. I'm hoping that we might get surprised by a little appearance over video call from Emily on Monday or Wednesday, whenever it was. I would love that.
Eileen Derbyshire is such a private person that I honestly don't even think that we will find out when she has died until quite a few. Somebody's going to see it in the obituaries or something and go, blimey. I just think that she's. I completely respect her wanting to be a separate person from her character, and now she's left. I think let her.
It was nice that she got a mention. It was important, and same with Mavis. Did Mavis get a mention? I don't remember, or maybe I'm confusing the fact that Thelma Barlow was in the tribute show, which was lovely to see her.
I love her.
Great. I think that I'd quite like Mavis to turn up at the funeral and get some revenge for how Norris was at Derek's funeral. Remember when he gets up and he makes this speech and calls him Dirk, and Mavis is just going,
fuming.
Wasn't called Dirk, it's called
gets
Derek.
So mad she kicks everybody out of the funeral.
Yeah, so this could totally be Mavis's revenge, but I don't think that's going to happen. No.
Although it would be such an epically Corrie thing to do for somebody to get revenge for something that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. So that's bye Norris. I think. Did it get your goat as much as it did in mine? The way that it was just getting a bit silly.
No.
Because he was a comedy character, I suppose. So some might say, well, that's what a character like that deserves. But I think that even with a character like this,
but this is Mary to a T, isn't it? This is Mary's just extravagant nature.
I think we were supposed to find it funny, and I don't think we did. I don't think we were. I don't think we were supposed to be like, oh, Freda and Gemma, take the stick up your ass. It's Norris, but I don't know. She wound me up. Yeah. Should we let's do the next story? We got Kelly, haven't we? So the big cliffhanger last week was Imran getting into the car with Sabeen
and poor Kelly.
Oh yes, that was quite important
poor
too.
Kelly.
Ah, Kelly
trying to end her life.
Trying to top herself, wasn't she? So this story didn't necessarily. I don't think it. The resolution to these cliffhangers was quite as satisfying or in depth as I was expecting. Really, both of them were The Imran one was kept a bit of a mystery about what happened completely, wasn't it? Whereas Kelly, it's like, no, she's all right, really.
This is so weird to me because this story was obviously the victim of reorganising the scheduling, but. So the Monday's episode should have been on Friday.
Yes.
But it actually didn't feel like a conclusive way of... So it did feel like a Monday's episode because it felt like we were picking things back up.
Yeah, I know what
So
you
I
mean.
don't understand what happened here. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, because it was also not in Wednesday's episode at all. Which would have mean they just skipped Monday anyway.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, so you would have got to Friday's episode, had the cliffhanger of what's happened to Kelly, and then you knew what happened to Kelly, sorry, and then you would have waited.
Oh well.
So it's odd. On Monday, Dirty Dog. Who's going to get the award out of him and Tyrone?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's probably got to be Tyrone, to be honest. So.
Right. Well, Dirty Dog, hungover, Imran is accosted by Nina in the street, who's not moralising on him, but she has been looking into how to appeal. And she wants him to help her, and he looks hopeless and says... Gary's there too, just rocked up to be nosy, and trust me, now we've moved into a much smaller close than the one that we were in before. I can totally understand how this happens.
We're in a total Coronation Street community here, aren't we? We're in at the end of a close, and there's like a little row. There's like what, 5, 6 maybe houses a bit like ours. And our next door neighbour came to speak to us the other day, and he gave us all the gossip on everyone around us. It was amazing. And this guy next door works for the SAS and the MOD, but he also has a roofing business or something. What is it he does?
He builds
bridges.
He builds bridges.
I wasn't really listening. What's he doing?
Can anybody guess from what Michael's just said what the man next door does for a living?
What is it?
He works in refrigeration.
Oh yeah, that's right, isn't he? So he spends all his time at Tesco's. But he also
doesn't.
gets called. He said that. He said
Okay,
he was at Tesco's,
listen,
but
we're not
sometimes he
gonna-
gets sent to the other side of the world to do secret stuff.
We don't know if anyone who's listening is our neighbour, a new neighbour, so we don't want to say anything.
Okay.
Okay? They all seem really lovely, but it is a place where if you go to your car, someone might talk to you about a plot line.
Yeah, whereas in our last place, we never spoke to the neighbours,
I
did we?
literally was like, I was in some kind of religious retreat where I couldn't speak or look anyone in the eye.
Well, 3 or 4 months ago, when we hired a skip to get rid of stuff, somebody who lived a couple of houses down the road said, "Oh, have you just moved in?" And we'd been at this house for 15 years. That shows what that community was. But already, it's like, oh, yeah, there's a band of us. I can imagine us getting together for the Jubilee next year or something. But although not everybody with everyone else, because it turns out that not everybody likes each other else on the
just
street.
Just like Coronation Street.
It's just we are in our own soap.
Anyway, Gary's there, just nosing, and Imran tells Nina and Gary that without evidence, it's not possible to appeal because there's nothing new.
Well, Imran's not in the right headspace with this anyway. He's just come back from whatever with Sabeen.
Fagging and shagging.
We don't know. He doesn't fag.
We don't know that either.
He might have been shagging.
He might have been stressed.
He might have, she might have kicked him out of the taxi on the way.
Listen, Leanne runs over and desperately, where the hell have you been? Kelly needs you. Abby slept on the sofa. She's mad at Kevin. She's doing this classic Abby thing where she rejects people and their love because she hates herself so much. She doesn't feel like she deserves it and she wants to punish herself. And this is how she's doing it, by rejecting Kevin's love, which I say that's self-healing. That is. Tell him, kick him to the curb. She's not interested in him. She says it's all over, everything's done. She's hopeless. Not she's hopeless, but she's less of hope.
Yes.
Imran turns up at the hospital to a frazzled Toya, and he's excusing like, "Oh, I went on a massive bender and slept at the office." And Toya's like, "We needed you." Oh, I felt so bad for her there.
What's happened? I know I did as well. I thought she did a good job.
What do you mean what's happened? I think it's obvious that Sabeen and Imran...
Yeah, but they didn't get the waking up in bed next to each other scene, did they?
It's COVID.
That's classic soap.
Because it's COVID.
Well, she could have been in bed and he's there brushing his teeth or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but think about it like this. If you're setting up a story where one character has a fling with another character and then has to repair the relationship with his current partner, which I think is what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You wouldn't bubble up Imran with Sabeen for one scene.
No, but
because you've got to bubble Toya and Imran together for the rest of the scenes.
They very purposefully left it a little bit ambiguous, I'm going to say. They didn't have Sabeen ringing up. They didn't have any kind of contact. They had nothing. So as things stand at the moment, Schrodinger's Imran did and didn't sleep with Sabeen. So I still like him.
I think he might have just killed her.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe Richard
like,
Hillman
maybe he's
Patricia
like,
back her on the head of the spade.
He's just like, I know how to get away.
Off the wig.
I know how to get away with murder now. Just kick a man to death and let a small blonde child take the rap. That's why he's so worried that Kelly's done this, because he's like, you're my alibi. You're the one that killed Sabeen.
Yeah, any other blondes around here? Any other ne'er-do-well
Bethany?
blondes?
She's gone as well. What am I supposed to do?
I'd pin it on Max. He's a bit of a wrong one now, isn't he?
Max would definitely... I'll tell you what. Definitely. I suspect him of everything. They're having a bit of a rant at each other, are Toya and Imran, mostly at the detention centre for letting this happen because she was very vulnerable and she should have been more supported in her mental health. I've always thought this. I can't believe this really... You know what I mean? When you really think about it, you do something wrong or somebody says you did... And then the next minute, the government can just put you somewhere and you're not allowed out. The concept of that, if I think about it too much, it just fries my brain. I can't.
I think this thing where they're having to go to the detention centre, probably if you work in somewhere like that, it's one of these cases where you see it on TV happen all the time and say, no, this doesn't. I mean, obviously it does happen in prison, but I think that probably the guards or whatever get a bad rap because they are probably very good at looking after inmates and vulnerable people, but they know that doesn't suit the plot.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, yeah.
Abby's completely shutting Kevin out, and she's fantastic here. This line really made me pause, where she said, "It's eating me from the inside out, and I feel like I'm rotting." What a fantastic way of putting.
Great line, perfect delivery.
She's brilliant, Sally Carmen. She says,
We have to say that at least once every episode.
Everyone's brilliant.
Just in case you've forgotten.
She begs Kevin to let her go. He's not enough for her. And then she pushes him away by saying, I don't love you, I never did. It was all just a scam. You're a free ride and a stopgap. And then she walks out, and that's the end of Abby at the moment.
Like we said earlier, and it has been in the news, so we're allowed to say it, but Sally Carmen went down with COVID while this was being filmed, so can only imagine at the amount of rescheduling and rewriting scenes and everything that had to be done during the whole of this course. I mean, what a time. There's never a good time to have COVID, obviously, but it just goes to show that it doesn't...
Behind the scenes, there must have been some very sleepless nights on the production staff.
Oh, yes.
And we, I tried to... We always criticise what we don't like, but just to make it clear, I cannot understand how anybody can do this job. This is like juggling with knives that are pointed on both ends. I don't know how anybody manages to schedule all of this and work out all the kinks.
I still think what happened with Abby running away, though, it makes me wonder, was that in the original version of the script? Because I can totally imagine her doing this. Like you said, it's very in character for her to push everybody away and put everyone who's trying to support her saying no, and just go and wallow her own grief for a little bit. I hope it was in the plan originally, because it must be very frustrating to sort of craft an amazing plot line and then have it,
turn to dust. But that's when you work with human beings. This can happen.
When people go off sick on Coronation Street, often they'll give the lines to somebody else, won't they?
You can't really...
Abby's kind of a bit of a lone wolf, isn't she?
Toya's there going, my son's in prison. My son was killed. Anyway, she cries and walks out, and that's the end of that. Gary asks Craig if he's heard from Faye.
Oh, I was going to delete this note. Yeah, I've just got a shout out for Faye.
Got a letter a few days ago.
No reason. That's not even this story.
What's up with Craig? And is he going to get in trouble for this? Because that was our... This is interesting. Why did they bring this up? It is interesting because Craig is involved in the profiling story where he's gone in to recant his previous statement and give a new statement, okay? But he's also involved in this clandestine relationship with Faye, who's in prison. If one of the police officers finds out that he's doing this behind everyone's back, the knives are going to be out for him now. Oh, yeah, they're not going to have his back over this. Now he's turned on them.
Yeah, that should have been the note in that story, really, shouldn't it?
And it could come out and be used against him. Interesting. There you go. Massive Imran down the phone later to someone who's in trouble now because Kelly has ended up in hospital.
Just having a go at the... Yeah.
Toya's trying to get him to stop, and he's saying, I was just trying to help. And she's like, well, you're not. And she goes off to go and get some things. The door's barely swung closed when a nurse comes in to tell him that Kelly is stirring. He goes in to see her, and she's still a bit upset. He tries to gee her up and say, we'll find evidence, we'll appeal. And she says no, she's given up, and she cries, and she says, I can't even kill myself, right? Oh, I feel so sorry for this poor girl.
Another great performance, but like I said, I think it was kind of swept under the carpet a little bit. And I know she went to her group later in the week, but I thought that they could have got a bit more mileage out of the drama that was created by the climax and the cliffhanger last week. But
the thing is, no matter what happens to Kelly, no matter if she gets vindication or, absolved of this crime that she didn't actually commit, she's always going to have this experience and trauma, and this on her. Yeah, this horrible experience. Imagine being that desperate.
And it looks like with the introduction of this Mia character as well, she's even going to get a story out of her time being in prisons, which I'm sure is not going to be plain sailing for her.
Well, there's yoga now.
Oh, yeah. No, she's not in Sally's prison, is she? I don't know whether yoga's got... Yeah, because I was wondering as well.
So is she going to be in... Is it Norcross?
I can't remember.
That's
I think
women's prison.
Yeah, but this is the juvenile detention centre, isn't it? And I was thinking, how old is Faye again? Is she in this? But I think Faye's too old. I think she went to proper prison. I think she's like...
Faye's older than Kelly?
Yes. Faye's like...
Faye's 12.
No, Faye's like 19 now, maybe.
No.
Yeah, she's in proper grown-up big girl prison.
I don't believe it. That doesn't seem right, does it? Anyway, he goes in to see Kelly. She's upset. Sally comes over later to see Kevin. He's down in the dumps, and she says, "This is classic. This is classic Abby. She'll come back and she's ready, and she does love you. Believe in your love, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
Toya's joined
Imran and Kelly.
Yeah. And they're all trying to make her see it's not the end of the world. She can still get out if she can appeal. And Kelly's just talking about going back and thinking, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. I should have stopped Corey. I should have tried really hard. She's just feeling sorry for herself, but this is part of really the process of coming to terms with what the heck's happened. Toya promises that they're all going to focus on her and they're going to get a good therapist. And I think Kelly's also talking about, you should get another foster child, blah, blah, blah. And this is why
Forget about me.
Toya's like, no, we want you to be our foster child.
Well, they've only got her for a little bit longer before she turns 18,
well, this
surely.
is the thing. Like, what do you do? Kick him out with a frying pan and a £5 note?
Yeah.
That's what they do in a home, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I would hope not. Anyway, Toya and Imran go back home later, and Imran finds that he's missed it. He remembers he doesn't have his phone, and he gets a missed call with a voice message, which is Kelly, pre-suicide attempt, telling him that she needs him and she can't cope and everything's really dark. And if he had picked this call up, he could have stopped what she did. He blames Toya for this, for not hearing the phone call.
Come on, Imran.
What were you going to say?
That's just not cricket. I was going to say he's playing a very dangerous game there. I've got a missing a voicemail. I think I'm just going to play this. That could have been Sabeen saying, fancy round 2.
Hi, big boy. You left so early I didn't get to kiss you goodbye.
Exactly, and Toya was there. That could have gone south for him quite quickly.
I think he's obviously forgotten what he got up to last night. Imran's aghast, that she let it go.
Maybe it is evidence of the fact that he didn't do anything last night. Clinging on into that hope.
What evidence?
No, maybe the fact that it wasn't Sabeen.
That's not evidence.
Oh.
No.
That's why she's the barrister and not me.
Yeah. Later on, Imran apologises to Toya for having a go at her, and she says, "No, you were right. She was asking for help, and I let her down. But we've got each other, and we have to be a united front." I can't believe the gall of this man too, blaming Toya for not hearing the phone that he left in his house while he went off and got drunk and shagged his ex-wife.
I know, that was a bit harsh.
I couldn't believe that.
You want to just put him and Tyrone in a bag and chuck him into the canal, don't you?
His first reaction wasn't, "Oh dear, I've missed the message on my phone that I didn't have with me."
It's guilt though, isn't it? He clearly from that first scene on Monday feels massively guilty about what he's done. He's kind of staggering back through the streets in the rain, and he's drunk, and he's lost his mind, and he knows that it was his fault. But he's like, I need to keep what I've done a secret at all costs. So the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, it's your fault.
I don't know if he's that self-aware in this moment, but that's you can see it either way. On Thursday, Imran tells Toya that he is using the rest of Gary's money, secret money, doesn't know it's from Gary, to get a clinical psychologist for Kelly so that she can stop being sad.
Yeah, I hope it does a better job than the blood spatter that you spent the rest of the money on, because that was a bit of a waste of time.
Was a waste of time. Goes to visit Kelly. She's just really hopeless, and she says, I've just got the next 12 years, I've got to get on with it. She doesn't really want to think about appealing anymore, does she?
No.
Imran says, go to a support group, and she's like, fine, I will if you make me, but I don't care anymore. So she goes to this group support thing where she doesn't really want to stay.
It's just a lot of girls sitting around in a circle, isn't it? There are 4 of them or something talking about harrowing experiences they've had that led them to this position that they're in now. She
meets a girl called Mia who tries to persuade her to stay because she's got... I mean, what else is she going to be doing?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if there's no yoga. Later
on, Kelly thanks her because she enjoyed herself, and Mia says, you can talk in the group whenever you're ready. And then she asks Kelly what she's in for, and she's like, well... I was convicted. I like the way she phrased this. I was convicted of murder, but I didn't do it. And Mia believes that she's innocent.
I quite like Mia's reaction, because whenever they have people who are sent down wrongfully in Coronation Street, or any fiction probably, people are like, yeah, that's what they all say, love. Yeah, of course, wink, wink, you didn't do it. But so I did appreciate Mia believing her. And that's what Kelly needed, because she got quite bolstered by that, didn't she? She had a bit of a smile that somebody at last believes her that's in here.
I wonder whether Mia believes her because she also killed somebody, but she's pretending that she didn't.
Did Mia say what she was in for? I can't remember whether she did.
You're not supposed. It's a faux pas in prison to ask what you're in for. On Friday, Sharon's back.
Sharon Bentley?
No,
have it. It's not her. Other Sharon.
I bet you
Sharon Lone Shark Sharon.
I bet you this Sharon said "have it" more than the other Sharon ever has.
I bet she did while she was giving them a good kicking. Give me your money. Have it.
So Sharon is.
She's got a taser in her bag. Maybe it's just an issue to all Sharons in Weatherfield.
Perhaps. Sharon is the ex-partner in crime, literally, of Rick Nealon, who is Kelly's dad, who's dead now, and
Gary killed him.
Yeah, Sharon has a real affection and protective feeling towards Kelly.
She was kind of like her
surrogate aunt.
Surrogate, exactly, yeah, because obviously Laura Nealon was a rubbish mum. Rick was always up to nefarious deeds. And
I wouldn't
Sharon
call her a surrogate mum, but she was like, a protective aunt.
Yeah. And she was the one that was making sure that when Gary was paying for the schooling area that he didn't miss a payment.
She came and told him off every now and then. So she has a go at Gary because of what Kelly got up to, and she says she wanted to keep Kelly out of the world of crime. And now she's only in prison, so Gary's failed. Gary tells Maria, and she's not happy that he's
he wants
getting involved again.
He wants to do what he can to help Kelly, and she's like, "Stay the heck away, Gary.
Stop involving yourself in other people's storylines. Can we not have a storyline about my lovely rose gold faucet that we have?
Also, what about all the traffic, Gary?
Look, what about my son?
What's happened there?
He's
got
literally,
asthma.
If you were to cut him open now, his lungs would be blackened
hard, like
a pickled walnut. You don't even care, Gary. It's like it's nothing to you.
This week was the week of comebacks. We haven't kind of particularly remarked on that yet, have we? But as well as Ken coming back from his little break, we had Claudia back, we had Freda back. I know she's been on and off it a little bit. We had Sharon, we had Elaine was back as well. Yes. Zeedan. There's 6 characters here that we've not seen in months.
It feels like nature is healing itself.
Maybe the whole of the cast had COVID during this, and they were like just grabbing anyone going through the address book, going, "Are
you all right?
Ruler, can you come back and do a few episodes,
Can you get
please?
a PCR test and pop over?" Right. Anyway, that's the end of that storyline.
I think Ruler Lenska was number 1 in the line to get the vaccine. I would say.
Probably. There's like a national treasures list.
Yeah. So we didn't get any Corey this week, did we? What do you reckon he's up to now? Just living it up. Being very smug.
Yeah.
Are we going to see? We're going to see him again, aren't we? I assume. I just thought that he might have more of a presence on the street this week. Maybe he needs to maybe Sharon needs to give him a quick visit.
Oh, I'd love Sharon to rough Corey up.
I think that would be quite poetic justice for him, wouldn't it? Because he's such a misogynist, to be beaten up, kicked to death by a girl.
Oh.
I think that would be quite good. Anything else good? I think we've kind of done our discussion as we've gone.
I suggested something to you the other day, and I just remembered it for how because.
Oh yeah, speaking of Corey,
we all know that this story is going to end up with Kelly getting set free and Corey being banged up or dead.
As
right?
Max and I discussed
how is this going to play out? How do we get to that point? And I had an idea, because one thing I was thinking of was Seb had HIV, and that never really turned into a story.
No.
And I think because Corey is a very ignorant, bigoted person, this is the thing. His comeuppance needs to come from some sort of character flaw. It needs to be triggered by him doing something wrong, rather than because the other characters can't find any more evidence. Okay, so to be a satisfying story, he needs to trigger his own demise, doesn't he? Really, and one way of doing that would be for Corey to find out that Seb had HIV because he was so close, he got blood on him, but there's no evidence because he destroyed the evidence. So his argument is that he wasn't next to Seb, so that's why there's no blood, because it was all Kelly who did it.
Yeah.
But if he finds out that Seb had HIV, then he starts to panic that he's caught it off of him.
And we did see this blood spatter on his cheek as well, didn't we? They made that very clear in the mirror scene when he was looking at himself back in the flat. So you
can
could
just
be onto
imagine
something
him freaking out and being really foul about, saying horrible things about him being impure or whatever horrible things you want to say about somebody who's got a disease like that. He would then trigger this freak out, and people will be asking him, why do you think you've got HIV?
I do like this, but I almost think that would have been better if it had come out in court.
Yeah.
If Imran had brought up the fact, like, were you aware that Mr. Franklin had HIV? And then that completely caught him off guard, and he lost it in front of everybody.
But the thing is that we'd have to be really delicate about this, because you don't want to make anyone who has HIV or to spread the idea that it is a dirty, horrible thing to have, because we've been through that. We're over that as a society. We support people who have it because there are ways to treat it. So what it needs to do is to not put the onus on Seb for having it, but to put it on to Corey for how he reacts
I think that
finding out
I like that
he had it. That's the only way I can think. That's like one way I can think of doing it. But the only thing is I worry about stigmatising people, because I would never ever want that. It's hard enough.
They could work it into
it's hard
the
enough
script.
to live with it as it is. The stigma of it, without having something trigger people's reactions. But maybe it would be an opportunity again to educate people about it, because we did have a little bit of that, but it was a while ago.
I'd like that idea. I like that. Right, I'm moving on. Next story. We've got to get through this. It's late already. Well, late in the day. So the Zeedan story. So Thursday, he phones up Yasmin. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Yasmin. He says he's going to stop by in the next couple of weeks. We also learn at this point that Alia is getting very behind with the paperwork at Speed Daal, and Yasmin says, I'm going to pull my weight more at the restaurant. I'm going to help out, do some figures with you.
Even though it's my birthday.
Yeah. And while they're there, Elaine turns up. She's got some birthday flowers for Yasmin. Lovely. And we also find out that a party of 12 has been booked tomorrow. So Elaine says, don't worry, I'll roll up my sleeves and help out. I'd completely forgotten she was a sleeping partner at Speed Daal, so thank you very much, scriptwriter, for reminding me there. End of the day, all gone well. Elaine's really chuffed with how Yasmin's coping. The main action of it comes in Friday, and I think lots of people didn't really enjoy this on Friday. I thought it had its moments that I quite liked, but it was a little bit silly as well.
I felt that it fell flat. To me, a lot of it felt like they were trying to force energy into the scene, and there was none. And I don't know how the oxygen was sucked out of the room somehow.
It wasn't great, was it? But I didn't hate it. So anyway, it's all go at Speed Daal on Friday, but they've run out of flour. They can't make their naan breads or their chapatis or anything like that.
Parathas.
And then this party of 12 show up, but there's only 3 of them, and they've been working their asses off trying to lay the tables out for 12 people, probably turning other people away. But for one reason or another, they've lost 8 people out of this party. And there's 9 people at the party, and there's only 3 of them left. There's a mum, a gran, and a little kid, isn't there? So this mum is the textbook difficult character, getting super ratty when she hears that there's no flour for naan bread or anything.
Alcohol.
Yeah, no alcohol there, exactly, because she wants a bottle of Prosecco or something. So she
wants 2 bottles of Prosecco, Michael, and there's only 2 adults there. I think that she's a woman after my own heart.
Ali is also stressing because the delivery driver's late. It's basically a massive disaster, and things only get worse when the boy's pet tarantula escapes out of its box, which is in its bag. I don't know why he's carrying it in a box in a bag, but it helps the story.
In between all of this,
if you can call it that,
Alia is phoning the delivery driver, trying to give him instructions, and then she gets the bank on the phone, and they say you've got weird suspicious activity on your account. Please enter this. Please go to your account and tell us what the PIN code is, so we can sort this out for you. And she's like, oh no, Gran's messed up somehow, and she's paid all the bills at once, so they think it's fraudulent activity.
Yeah.
So, and then she goes back on the phone with the delivery driver to try to tell him where to go.
And so eventually this spider, this tarantula, makes its presence known to one of the other pairs of clientele at the Speed Daal. They scream, they're hiding away from this little, really cute little tarantula that's crawling around. I thought it was very nice and fluffy.
Talk about stigma. People with HIV.
I know.
And then
the
also tarantulas.
Oh, yeah.
Also stigmatised by society. I also want to say one thing. If anyone's seen, which hopefully you all have, Austin Powers, the scene where is it Smitty?
Yeah.
Gets run over by the
Very slow-moving steamroller.
By the steamroller, and he's standing there going, no, as the steamroller slowly moves towards him to crush him to death. This is how I felt about the menacing tarantula who was casually strolling around. It's not like, it's like a massive spider. You can't really lose it. If you're watching where it goes, you'll always see it, and it's not like it was scuttling.
No.
It was just chilling out.
It's
I
just
don't like
little
spiders, but I don't think I would freak out this much about a tarantula. Especially when there's a Tupperware. I was thinking, there he is. Get the Tupperware box and put it over the top of him.
Just like a normal spider. It's fine. It's not going to leap at you.
Get the Hoover.
I think that Smitty was the one that was decapitated by an ill-tempered mutated sea bass.
He was the one that was played by Rob Lowe.
I don't remember. I never know actors. Anyway, Elaine gets on the phone to the RSPCA trying to get somebody to rescue it because there's boys in the loo.
I can't believe Elaine phoned the RS... Like, is there like a hotline for idiots to phone the RSPCA? Like, listen, lady, we've got there's a deer that's been run over on the ring road. It's backing up the traffic. We want to come and find...
damn tarantula.
Get the boy to catch the tarantula. Apparently he was doing a poo.
Massive one.
In the toilet, reading his comics.
Yeah. He comes back in and catches it in the end, so it's all fine.
Yeah.
But this is when Alia gets another phone call from the bank to say that the business account is completely empty.
Is this what they do?
I guess so.
Because I've emptied my bank account many times and they've never phoned me up.
There's probably supposed to be more in the business account than yours, to be fair. So Elaine says it's going to be fine, but Alia's not so sure.
Well, no.
And it sounds like she's been scammed in some way. But during this, and this was not the best script, and I have to say, Yasmin keeps pointedly saying, "Oh, Alia, what a wonderful girl! She never makes a mistake."
Yeah, why did she literally use that phrase? She never makes a mistake.
Because is it that Alia thinks that she's screwed up or something?
She has screwed up.
I can't remember what's happened because I was falling asleep.
Alia, when the bank phoned up to say, please, you got fraudulent activity.
Oh, yes.
That was actually the scammer.
That's what happened, wasn't it? So Thank you very much.
So this terrifies me because they would get me too.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do anymore. Do you?
I just do it all online. I didn't get that at all.
So she told them.
Okay, so she
was distracted by the phone calls from the delivery driver and the tarantula crawling all over the place and the annoying woman
that would distract
who wants prosecco.
Right, so Yasmin's got no money now, but she still didn't realise that Alia's one. Yeah, but she didn't realise that Alia's the one behind this, and she keeps saying how wonderful she is. She phones up Zeedan, tells him. Elaine says it's all going to be fine, don't worry. And at the end of the day, Yasmin's still banging on about how wonderful Alia is, who is feeling very guilty. But luckily, she gets a massive distraction in the form of Zeedan, her brother, who walks down the steps. And he has come early. He said that he'd come in the next couple of weeks, but he's rocked up now. Yasmin's thrilled. And then he unwittingly drops Alia in about the scam. So
don't worry about the scam, Gran.
Yes,
I'll help you. And Ali's like, shut up.
Yasmin doesn't appreciate the idea that Alia was keeping all this from her.
I thought this was super out of character. Yasmin all Friday was like, Alia's the best woman in the whole world, and then she gets scammed, literally, like anyone could get scammed, and then she's like, Alia, you're the worst,
so irresponsible,
I hate you, you're terrible. Why is she so mean to her about it? She didn't do it on purpose,
just to make her feel even guiltier.
I thought that was bad.
Zeedan's trying to calm things down. He says he's going to cook a nice dinner because don't forget he's now the best chef in Weatherfield. Now Robert Preston's popped his clogs, and he looks troubled. There's something going on there with Zeedan, isn't he? When he's there alone in the kitchen, he's like, oh, I've got a dark secret to reveal next week. Yeah, but we do find that he is loaded, which is nice. He's going to transfer 50 G's, he says, into the business account. But Alia's suspicious of this. Also, why did you get here so quickly? There's a load of mystery.
How did you get here so quickly? Well, Alia, do you know when I left my house? That's the question. Why does she keep saying that? Wasn't he supposed to be
in Spain or something?
I don't know. I just I don't get.
He got married abroad.
It's not really that suspicious to me that somebody's arrived that I didn't know had left their house.
You glad to see Zeedan back?
Look, I don't normally say anything about the way people look. But what was that haircut?
I don't know. It was quite shiny.
Because you can change your hair. This is the thing. You can change your hair. And it's the haircut. He used to have really great hair. I mean, his hair's lovely. He's got lovely, thick, luscious head of hair, but he's got a bowl cut.
He looked a bit different than before. He'd also kind of bulked up and beefed out a little bit more, hadn't he? He's not.
I don't know.
He didn't appear to be.
We're not talking about.
No, I'm not. But I don't know whether they're going to be changing his character as well. He was always a bit surly and moody, but I remember by the time he left, being definitely on Team Zeedan over the whole Kate and Rana thing. And he was a bit more of a sensitive soul, and he was also like one who, for the religion, out of all the Nazirs, his faith was the most important to him. And I don't know whether they're going to get rid of that, because it feels like that he's maybe involved in some dodgy business or something, that he's just got £50,000 that he can give to his gran. So I'm happy to see him again, but I'm very much aware that I might be let down by this comeback.
You said he looks a bit bulkier. Perhaps he's more buff now.
Well, this is just because he mapped out, and exactly. I'm not saying he's not got the COVID weight.
His hair is different. So I saw quite a lot of people on Twitter going, "Oh, is it the same bloke?"
Yeah,
it's obviously the same bloke. He's just got
definitely
different haircut.
Yeah, he's just changed during the pandemic, like we all have. So yeah. Happy to have him back. Kind of glad that they've got. I'm interested to see what they do with Yasmin now, because she hasn't recovered massively well, in my opinion, from the Jeff story. She's been languishing a little bit on the sidelines, and then being used a bit of the comic relief and being a bit pathetic, maybe, which is the same as the spider stuff, just going off on a different part of the story. The spider tarantula storyline just reminded me of that scene earlier this year where they were hiding from the mouse. So yes, it was in character, but it wasn't great then. They were just it was stupid massive then.
It's stupid now. It's embarrassing to see women stereotyped in such a way, and I do know that many women will react like this, but also lots of blokes don't like spiders and mice either. I think we're beyond this. As not only a character trait of women in general, but also as a joke of like a person shrieking like an elephant scared of a mouse.
Yeah, exactly. It was that. It was a massive overreaction. It also made me think, and I'm sure lots of other long-term Coronation Street fans will say this as well, if you're going to let a spider loose, people are going to remember the brilliant scene where there's the tarantula loose in the kitchen in The Rover's Return, and the health inspector has come, and that was one of my favourite Alec Gilroy scenes, where he's trying to hide this spider from the health inspector, and then he accidentally crushes it. So
why is it always a tarantula?
It's just the look that Roy Barraglough gives when he accidentally crushes the spider is hilarious,
gross.
And very cruel.
Imagine?
I love that scene, and this just made me think it's not as good as that. I wasn't Elaine. I'm not fussed about her being back. When she first came into it last year, I thought this seems like an interesting character, but they kind of having her live in with Kathy and Yasmin earlier this year kind of put me off her, and when she left, I was like, oh well.
You need somebody for Alia to talk about Yasmin.
Yeah.
But now Zeedan's back, is Elaine needed? Because honestly, I found her a bit patronising this week about Yasmin. Like, she's always like, oh, she's doing so well. I do understand that Elaine is intimately involved in Yasmin's recovery from Jeff, because it symbolises more to her as well.
Yeah.
And they both shared the experience, but it's starting to get a bit patronising.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see where the story goes, because it's clearly a new story. This isn't, spin-off of anything else. I'm being cautious about it.
Well, if that haircut is going to stay, he's going to have to be down in Trim Up North, like, on a very regular basis to keep that little sharp edge intact.
Yeah. Max Payne, Gemma.
Didn't know what to think about this. So this was the first appearance of the recasting of Max.
Yeah, which we talked about in the cabin the other week.
So on Thursday, Daniel's on an early morning cafe run.
As you do, if you're a teacher, you just, idly walk to school, pick up a coffee on the way, no problem.
Ken's there, and he's talking about the book that Daniel's chosen to teach the children about, which is Titus Andronicus, which is a bit heavy going, really. David sees Max hanging around on the street at lunch, and he says, I've been left out early. He's basically just playing hooky and being an arse. He's also an arse to Daniel at school.
He's a massive arse and cocky, smug git all week, this new Max, isn't he?
Don't want to disparage teenage boys, but it is very teenagey. He's like a very classic, like, laughs at everything, makes fun of everything, is too cool for everything. thinks everyone else are a bunch of saddos, and
it's kids like him that grow up to be Corys, I have to say. And I know we're kind of branching off from the synopsis here, but David was saying, I don't want him to turn out like me. Max is nothing like what David was like at his age, because David was
turned evil by a serial killer.
Yeah, but he was also, very
cheeky,
sarcastic and cheeky and lovable about it.
He was a scamp.
And had a great sense of humour and all this. But at the moment, Max is just coming across as a horrible oik.
Yeah.
Nothing at all like David.
I've often heard parents joke that when their child becomes a teenager, it is like coming downstairs one day and literally the kid has turned from a happy-go-lucky little boy to a horrible, surly teenager.
It's like that Harry Enfield sketch, isn't it, with Kevin?
Yes, that's right. He turned 13 and he suddenly turned into Kevin. So it is kind of symbolic of that process that Max has been recast.
Yeah. Let's say what happened first.
So after school, Daniel tells David that Max was very lively, playing to the gallery. He's being quite diplomatic. You got to be with parents because some of them can be arseholes. David says he's going to put a stop to it, don't you worry. So he tries to tell Max off, and Max is just very cocky and won't really listen and says that Daniel's lying. On Friday, David's having another go at Max because he's risking falling behind, but Max does not care. And Daniel has to give Max an amber warning because he didn't do his work about Macbeth. Why are they doing Macbeth and Titus Andronicus?
Was Titus Andronicus for Max's class? I don't know whether it was or not.
Oh, maybe not.
He probably
Max
teaches
doesn't
other
care.
people.
He's not bothered about school. He's too cool. I think at one point he says he wants to not bother doing school anymore. Shona and David approach Daniel about after-school tutoring, and Daniel's like, trying to subtly like put them off. I'd just say I don't literally have time. I'm a teacher. He's like, I wouldn't be fair on everybody else if I did that. And then David later is saying, you can't spare a couple of hours to help a friend out. Literally, no.
No,
literally,
the government is already providing funds for children to do catch up. That with all the learning that was lost during the pandemic.
Well, I'm glad that they're actually paying for tutoring separate, because I thought at one point they were going to try and make you lot do it. You literally wouldn't be able to do it.
But some teachers are offering to do it.
Yeah, but they get paid extra.
Yeah.
But you literally would not have time. I would not have the
time. And I don't know what my stance on this story should be now, because I could literally, every time Daniel comes into the show now and does something that flies in the face of what is actually, a teacher's real life experience, I could have a good old moan and a complain about it, but I don't know whether it's worth it and whether people will be fed up of it. I now know what it's like for the people who, are lawyers or judges, teachers, or barristers or whatever,
policemen.
having seen this trial story. And just this is his second week as a teacher, and he seemed like, he's a confident guy, but I just would have liked to have delved into his trepidation about going into the classroom, and also the fact that you're the first year of a teacher is incredibly difficult, and they've only made it more difficult this year. In fact, you have your NQT year, which is your newly qualified teacher year. That's now 2 years. It's called something else as well, and the expectations are massively ramped up. So
why are they?
I'll say it now and maybe not say it again. Crisis. I did like the fact that we saw some stuff in the school. We got to see Daniel's classroom and everything, didn't we? That was quite cool.
You in no way get compensated fairly for the amount of time and emotional stress that you go through. But I just wanted to also add that in different countries, I'm thinking of America specifically here, teachers get treated even worse than they do here. I don't know if the workload is the same, because your workload is ridiculous, but I do know that teachers get paid so badly in America that some of them take summer jobs.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to do that because you spend most of summer working.
I know.
I just want to, I can't believe how badly people treat teachers, but you wouldn't get that from watching Coronation Street. And I just wanted to add that the reason why this is not a story about Daniel being a teacher. This is a story about Daniel's relationship with the people that he teaches.
Well, it's a Max story before it's a Daniel story, isn't it? Yeah. The other thing about Daniel, and again, I will shut up after this, is that he's a secondary school English teacher who I believe are probably the hardest working, and I'm completely making this up. Yeah, paperwork-wise, if you're an English teacher, all these essays that you have to mark and everything, I can't even imagine, because literacy, when I have to mark that, is like, it's such a slog. And if that's all he does, blimey, it must be very, very difficult. I'll say no more. But I'd be interested to see a teacher stress storyline with him, because I think he would do a very, very good job.
I think he'd have a mental...
Is
honestly, Daniel is quite a fragile person.
He is, he really is.
He doesn't have any support at home. He's got a baby. Well, he's a toddler now, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how he would cope. I think he would have a breakdown. Lots of your...
You're right, he has been incredibly fragile in the past, and he's on his own.
Lots of your... I mean, I don't want to toot my horn here, but I take up a lot of the slack in the house, and I do a lot of things that you probably don't even realise I do, because you just don't have time, or you don't. I want you to relax when you come home and not, I ask you to empty the bins.
Yeah.
But Daniel's got to empty his own bins and do the washing up.
And do the cooking.
And the cooking. Yeah. And the baby.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he's.
What do you think of the new Max? What do you think of the new Max?
I don't think we're supposed to like him.
No. Can you see him as Max?
No.
Lots of people are saying, oh, he's grown up overnight, but really, Harry McDermott hasn't been much of a presence on Coronation Street for a very long time. I think the last time he appeared was last Christmas when they did the recreation of the David and Shona wedding, and then before that it was another 6 months or so because of COVID and everything. So I think, yes, he does look a lot older than he is in our heads, but literally we've not seen him, and I don't know. I don't know what 15. I don't know what 15-year-olds look like. My first impression wasn't, oh, he looks a lot older than he should do. But yeah,
to me he does. I was shocked. I was like, Max? Max is not that old, but I think
Faye's still 12.
It's partly because Harry McDermott is very youthful.
He is, yeah. I mean, he was a real cute little cherub of a kid when he first came in back in
very shy.
2010. Yeah, definitely.
And so he takes up less space.
Yeah.
This new Max is like a big, bombastic, arrogant,
he's very cocky
aggressive.
And arrogant. And yes, Max is supposed to have had ADHD because that was his storyline from a few years ago. But at the end of the day, he was, like you said, quite quiet and softly spoken on the whole. And when we last saw him, as I said, at David and Shona's wedding, he was still quite cute there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy Max at the beginning. I've been off him a little bit since he's been going through those young teenage phases, and personality-wise, it looks like they want to completely go somewhere different with him and have him filled a standard, angry, horrible oik of a teenager trope.
Delinquent.
Yeah.
So,
which is, I mean, I don't want to judge too soon, because we just had, a couple of years ago, Zen and Ditchett recast as Adam Hussein, and that's like the best recasting ever.
Yeah, but...
And so they maybe get with this.
God,
sorry.
Will you let me speak?
Yes, I will.
The thing is about new Max is you're not supposed to like him. He's supposed to grate on you and rub you up the wrong way. He is there to play the role of the irritating teenage boy, and I don't know the actor's name, but he is
Paddy Beaver.
He is playing it absolutely perfectly, because I instantly hate him.
Yeah,
and I just want to pay tribute.
Characters.
I know you don't, but the thing is, it's a tribute to the actor's skill of playing somebody, and maybe he's an arsehole in real life, I don't know, but I actually hate him, and round of applause for making an instantly dislikable character.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad if you don't like a character to say, because you feel you don't want to upset the actor. The actor's doing this role on purpose. It's when you don't like somebody and you're supposed to, like Tim.
Yeah, no, I didn't like it. Like I said earlier, I just don't like the idea of David having kids. It's a very
I didn't mind it when it was like
unnecessary complication
Max, Lily,
to his life.
Time for school. Oh, I've got to give him some cereal, and that's literally the extent of his parenting. But now he's getting involved, and he's on WhatsApp groups, and he's talking about homework and telling him he's got to...
Growing up, innit?
Yeah. I think David just seems like... I know this isn't the actuality of the character, but he just seems like the eternal bachelor. I don't know what he's doing with a girlfriend and children and a wife that's dead.
Yeah.
He just seems like he'd be much better rocking off on his own.
Yeah. Irritating his mum.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it for David and Max. I also wanted to say that when David was referring to Daniel as Daniel Osborne in front of Max, and I didn't think that was very appropriate, as he is his teacher. He should be calling him Mr. Osborne.
Oh,
and I don't think that Max knew him as Daniel particularly beforehand. I know he just lives opposite and everything, but...
I remember when I was a kid, like the secret first names of teachers were mysterious.
Yeah. No, actually, I suppose there is a link, because if he was going out with Bethany, and then Bethany obviously linked to the Platts there, so maybe they did know each other better, but I don't know. Racism storyline, characters profiled. James has had his foot scanned, not gone well. He storms off to the police station because he wants to go and sort this.
Well, he wants something to be sorted out.
He wants something to be happening.
And if his foot can't be sorted out, then he can sort out racism.
Exactly, institutionalised racism. And Craig has decided he wants to be re-interviewed, so he goes there, sees Jess. That was another character that I missed earlier. Another comeback this week. He basically goes to his boss and says, "Oh yeah, actually, they were driving fine. They weren't angry. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. I'm done." He goes back to James and says, "Guess what? I've told them everything that happened. Shower me with praise." And James is like, "No, you should have said that 2 months ago or whenever it was when it happened. You want praise to think you should have done already? No, thank you, mister." And so Craig just finishes off Wednesday's episode having a bit of a chat with wise man Kirk. And he's decided he's not going to stop there. Yes, he's done his bit, but it's inherent in the system and he's going to do something about it. He's going to not be a passenger anymore. He's going to drive the bus. And because it's Kirk there having this conversation with Craig, he has to say something stupid, which is, "You're changing jobs." And that's the end of that story.
So he's going to be like Line of Duty guy. Is he going to be...
Yes, he might be.
What's the name of their unit?
I don't remember. It gets mentioned all the time on the programme, but...
It's been so long since I've seen Line of Duty, but he's going to be the police corruption division. Yeah,
that sounds about right for Goody Two-Shoes. Although, actually, no, he's very corrupt himself, isn't he? He's always telling people things that he shouldn't do.
Oh, no.
He'd be handing himself in.
I'll tell you a secret.
Yeah, he's going to go into the interview room where they've got those mirrored walls and then just tell himself everything that he's done that he shouldn't have done.
The problem I have with this story is that it's really tricky because the way Coronation Street have done it, the definition of erratically can still be applied to what James was doing because he couldn't drive the car properly.
No, he was juddering about a bit.
He was.
And he got out of the car when he was told not to.
Because they were scared. I understand why they did it. They weren't being aggressive.
No, they weren't.
But I think that they made a mistake here because they put too much ambiguity into the situation for us. There's still benefit of the doubt here about what the policeman was actually thinking. And the trouble is, you can only know if he was being racist if you jump in his head and find out what he was thinking. Because the way that Coronation Street played that scene, somebody who wasn't racist could have still had the same outcome. Because if you saw two guys in a car and they're juddering about and you don't know whether, and you ask them what's going on and then they jump out of the car at you, do you see what I mean? I don't want to excuse. Yeah. I don't want to excuse racism at all. But what I want from Corrie is a story where you can point at it and go, "This is obvious," because it's not a story about what is racism, is it? It's a story about institutionalized racism in the police.
So far, it doesn't feel like Corrie is particularly interested in investing a lot of time in it either. It's like many of the Bailey stories, it pops its head up for a week and a half, 2 weeks or so, and then disappears off for another few months.
I don't want the situation of was it racist to be the problem. I want the problem that they address to be, how do we combat this? Which is what I think they wanted. But they've made a mistake in the way that they played it originally. And I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves with this story. Because I hate talking about this and bringing this up every time. It makes me feel like I'm being racist. But it is a fact that that's what happened. He was driving erratically.
Craig's also not going to solve the problem, is he? So I don't know what the satisfying conclusion to this is.
I think I'm onto something with what I said earlier with Craig and Faye, and the knife's going to be out for Craig, and it's going to demonstrate what. Because if you think about police,
we're all bent here in the force. But even
the thing is, though, there must be, and it's inescapable if you're a human being, an element of us and them. If you're a policeman, it's us, the police, versus everybody else. And anybody in the public could be a criminal. You don't know. You don't know until you've investigated or they've done something wrong. Yeah? So when the person who's on your side turns around and says that you're the one that's done something wrong, they're going to close ranks. How do you stop that from happening? Because you need the police to be that unit, that cohesive unit, because they need to trust each other in really hard situations. But that kind of trust breeds this sort of insular, protective, defensive attitude against attacks from the outside. And if you've got such a strong in-out group and you're not on the in group, you become the out group, and that's what Craig is going to do to himself. And that I would find that interesting. I'm really not knowing where they're going with this still, because there are lots of things that Corrie tackles that feels like you want to make a satisfying story out of it, and the only way to satisfy people is to solve the problem. But you can't solve racism in Coronation Street.
No.
It just ends up like when we had with the...
Let's just not talk about it anymore and it's solved.
Well, it already feels like Coronation Street attempted that with the scene we had with the Baileys when the bistro was renovated, and they had that horrible man making nasty comments, and Ed took him to task, and then everyone retreated to the Rovers to learn about racism and what is being woke. And then Coronation Street seemed to be like, there you go. And then that's not really good enough.
No. Let's move on. We've got a couple of stories left. No, you're right.
All right.
Eileen.
Eye-opener on Wednesday. Eileen invites George to stay the night, because the last time we saw them, they were sneaking into the house together. He's a bit taken aback, and he blusters that he's got to pick up a corpse in Sheffield in the morning. Mary gets annoyed because they're always hanging around together in the house, and she wants to bring in a new house rule: no bringing partners home without the okay from all other house members. And George takes Mary's side because I think he's worried and he wants her to accept.
He doesn't want to. Yeah, he does. He doesn't want to pat anyone else's nose out of joint.
He's a people pleaser, isn't he? And I'm like this too, where I will put, because I trust you and I know you love me. Often I will kind of put your needs behind other people.
Oh, thanks.
You must have noticed this happening. And George is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He really should be backing Eileen up here, but he is too concerned about winning Mary over. So he kind of puts Eileen's nose out of joint, and he tells Eileen he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. But he accepts her offer of an afternoon delight, so she's obviously not bothered about it.
No. They just and then Eileen and Mary just have a make-up, don't they? They have a make-up chat. Eileen's very chilled after a session with George, and Mary says, "Look, I was just can't." This was almost a precursor to the Norris story, wasn't it? Because Mary says, "Oh, I just can't afford to lose any friends at the moment. That's why I was being so harsh about this." Little did she know that in 2 days' time she would lose one of her dearest friends.
Isn't that after that happened?
No, that was before.
Well, there you go.
So finally, we had the summer loving story. Brilliant end to the week, the end of the street talk, because this happened at the beginning of the week, but
this was my favourite.
A little bit more of Aadi and Summer's blossoming romance. He's brought a romantic cheese selection round, and Dev comes over and says he kind of breaks up their date because he has to go and cover the shop. Aadi does. Aadi at the shop is getting increasingly annoyed that Dev's not showing any kind of interest in Summer in the same way that he did with Nina and Nina and Asher when he was gushing all over them and setting up the lesbian film nights and everything. Absolutely, Aadi has been cast adrift really by Dev here.
It was because Dev was falling over himself to show how accepting he was of Asher. That he also he overdid it.
Yeah,
which is unlike Dev.
I wonder whether also Dev's thinking, when I was young and a player, I wouldn't necessarily have wanted my parents knowing what I was getting up to. They just let me get on with it. So that's possible as well. But anyway, Aadi says, "Look, you don't even know her name, do you?" And is this when Dev does his summer night, summer 69? I don't know. But when Aadi leaves the shop, Dev immediately gets on the blower to Billy and tries to arrange this get together. And he's like, "Also, what's her second name?" So Aadi and Summer come back home in the evening to find Billy and Dev, who've put out this party for them. And this is the Devviest Dev that's ever devved, isn't it? He was devving it right up to the max.
He couldn't have devved anymore.
He couldn't have been devier if he tried. Just over the top, embarrassing, cringeworthy. The Dev that Gemma and I absolutely love.
Utterly fantastic.
He's been cringeworthy for years, but now he's got the children at just the right age for it to be even more embarrassing.
Perfect.
He was he was drunk. He was talking about how brilliant sex is. What does he say? He says, it's making love is one of life's greatest pleasures. And he's like, let's not be all British about it. Sex! It was so over the top.
It was like he
and,
was trying so hard to be cool and like, I'm laid back. You can talk to me about anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a taboo out of this.
He was getting drunker and drunker as the evening that was going on and getting more inappropriate. And obviously, Aadi and Summer just wanted to get the heck out of there. So
don't they play hide and seek or something?
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah,
and they make him count.
Yeah, well
and he's like 1.
There's nothing wrong. We're talking about sex. It
fantastic.
Was, and
if you didn't like it,
sorry,
if you don't like Dev,
I don't like Mary sometimes. I love Dev,
this.
and I'm sure there were people who are complete opposite of me, but I absolutely.
This was like my birthday.
We were rolling. We were and Monday. We was. This was the day before we moved. We were so stressed out on Monday evening, and we didn't know whether it was going to go through properly. We didn't know whether our solicitor was going to screw up, which they still did on Tuesday. And sitting and I'd just gone. Had a hard day at school, and sitting watching this, I was like in a right mood, and I started watching it. But that scene there, my cares flitted away. I was so excited and happy by this scene.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
No. And then nothing particularly happens to follow it up from Wednesday. They've both just got hangovers, Billy and Dev. And Summer tells Aadi that she's not ready to sleep with him yet. And it's fine, whatever. But loved it, absolutely loved it. I think that, Billy was all right as well, but I don't think the scene needed Billy in the slightest. And I was still watching it a little thinking, so Dev's saying isn't shagging about great, and the vicar's there going, yeah, preach.
I thought he was fine. I thought he was funny. He was a bit more subtle than Dev. It needed him there, otherwise it's literally just a man getting drunk in his house, molesting 2 children and talking to them about sex.
I think
it needed Billy there, otherwise it would have been weird.
I just think having this vicar there sort of championing fornication.
Billy is not your average vicar, Michael.
No, he's a vicar with attitude.
He's a vicar with no morals.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Anyway, really funny scene.
Great week.
I don't want Aadi and Ashley to grow up because it won't be funny anymore as much when Dev's like this.
This is the good old days of the Alahans now. We're in a golden Alahan age.
Appreciate them while you can.
Yes.
Right.
I enjoyed most of it apart from Fridays. I was actually really into Corrie this week, and like you said earlier, we've been really stressed out. So
we've been having to watch it on the iPlayer as well, haven't we? Because we haven't had a TV plugged in. So we've been watching it on this tiny screen, and it's been a nice break to our stressful days. Just been able to sit back and blob out and watch it.
Yes.
What were you saying?
I don't know.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You said you were really into Coronation Street this week, but Fridays was a bit of a letdown for you. Was it mostly because of the Speed Daal stuff?
Fridays felt like... I really don't want to be mean because everybody tried their hardest and all the actors were really trying to breathe life into this, but it felt like such a deflated everything. There was no energy in any of the scenes, and the actors were trying to portray suspense and drama, but the situation and the script, I don't know, there was just no energy in it, and it wasn't anyone's. I can't pinpoint what happened, because it was the tarantula loose in a restaurant. It's such a cliche thing, but Coronation Street can do cliche and make them funny and interesting, even if they're not original and unique. But something about it was just missing.
It's very
missing
by the
energy.
Numbers, by the book.
So Fridays was a massive letdown. If I just watched the rest of the week, I'd be scoring this like 4.
I'm settling on the 3. I think I liked having the older characters together for the Norris story, even if I didn't think it was quite as respectful as it should have done. The Alina story was great. I think it's had its ups and downs, but on the whole, that has been a very strong story.
Very solid week for that story. I really
really was. Yeah,
this was great. I loved the stuff under the table with Tyrone.
Yeah, I loved that.
I loved Dev and Aadi and Summer and Billy. That was brilliant.
Nice to see some comebacks, even if there wasn't a single one comeback that I was like super thrilled about. But it's always nice to see an old face again, isn't it?
Great to see more Toya and Imran. I'm really glad that they've got a really big meaty story.
Imran. Being horrible to Toya.
This is the thing. Be careful what you wish for. I always knew that when we were demanding our Toya and Imran fix, that it would result in some sort of relationship issue, because that's all Corrie knows what to do with relationships. So I knew this was going to come if we ended up with more of them. I'm just hoping that Sabeen was a one-off and it's not going to turn into a sordid affair.
I am going to give this week's episode 3 marginally discounted Toblerones out of 5. What about you?
I'm going to give it 3.5 long and satisfying finishes.
Very nice, very nice. My character of the week, I'm going to say, is...
Dev, for me.
No.
Because of that scene. That was like you said, it was the Devviest Dev that ever devved, and if Dev, is never in it again, I know he's peaked. I love him. I thought this was the funniest scene he's ever been in. I was lapping it up. I wanted more. I can't praise it enough. Jimmi Harkishin is amazing. How he can go from that to the scene when he was berating Imran in the street. What a talent.
He really, really is. I think, although I absolutely adored that scene as well, for consistency throughout the week, I'm going to give it to Fizz. For sticking to her guns with Tyrone.
Yeah,
as much as I would have liked to have him to taken her to have taken him back, no, she stuck with Phill. I thought that she was lovely with Phill. I think they make a nice couple. She was done up all nicely as well. Nice, very
she looked
pleasing
great
to the eye. And yes, but basically just sticking to her guns and saying stuff you Tyrone rather than just letting him walk all over her.
I've got my chance for my dream Tyrone.
Yeah, so Fizz is my character of the week, I'm going to say.
Good.